Now, let's try this again, but this time less stupid. Doxing my name is kind of whatever. Doxing the address is unforgivable. Alright, now, we are back again. Let me reopen the concept that we were about to review. And those of you that were part of the initial stream, I accidentally clicked back, which took me back to my Amazon order page, which had all of that beautiful and juicy information. So, yeah, had to take that stream down and delete it. But that is fun. I mean, besides Google having all of my information now, it is fun. We're on this concept. Yeah. The killer concept, Jacob Harvey, the drowned with perks. Now, as I was saying before everything happened, this is the third drowned in parentheses concept that I've seen here recently. One was literally made off of the drowned, and it had like a picture of a mer person from Darkest Dungeons and a picture of the drowned from Minecraft. The second one is the knock that I went over, I want to say yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday, but I want to say yesterday. And now we're here with the drowned. And this is one of the obvious things when I literally say, look at other people's concepts. Look at other people's concepts. The person that initially did the underwater people, I guess is what I'm going to say, but the first original drowned was quite a bit a ways away. I mean, it was far enough away to where it wasn't going to cause any issue for somebody doing the knock. The knock is slightly different from the drown. But I mean, it is essentially the drowned. It's more like a siren type, mermaid type thing, where the initial original concept was just basically based off the drown. Both of them coming out, a decent space away is completely fine. But here we have Jester Kind posting this at the 23rd, where the knock was posted literally 2 days ago. Lets me know that Jester Kind don't look at anybody else's concepts really when he's posting. In literally 2 days before or he, she, whoever had time to even get me feedback and implement that feedback into their concept, you have another The Drowned concept already posted to the forum by another person. People, it's not that hard to look at other people's concepts. One, it'll give you inspiration when you need it, and two, you're not going to look like an idiot posting a concept that is similar to somebody else's concept. Because this is what this guy looks like. Jester Kind looks like right now is just a straight up fool. Because there's no reason for him to be posting or dual posting a concept that's already been put out like that. If I wasn't short on content, I literally would have just skipped over his entire concept and I would have continued on. Whether he was a buddy of mine, whether he was a fan of mine, whether he was an enemy of mine, it does not matter. It's irrelevant. It's the same content being portrayed twice. But I'm going to go through this and I'm going to be probably more strict because literally just went over something similar to that. Yeah, you might have more detail and more story and everything else on top of it, but it's just straight up, it's not disrespectful, But it's like, come on, bro. You can't just move in on somebody else's concept territory that quickly. Let them get time to get feedback. Let them get time to implement said feedback. Let them get time to communicate with people. Because one of you two are going to get shortchanged. Then, on top of that, you have a disclaimer. I've done my best not to give any hard numbers when it comes to distances and percent slowdown, as I have never been particularly good at gauging distance in DBD. Any numbers I do give are also not set in stone. One, that's a coward's disclaimer for saying that I'm lazy at my work. Please don't yell at me. Two, if you're going to take the time to look up the drowned and write all of this additional stuff, you need to go into detail about how everything does. You need to get past that, oh, well, I'm going to write in detail whatever I think is cool about the concept, and everything else I don't really care about. Learn Dead by Daylight. Learn the distances and things like that. Look up the information that you don't understand. Look at additional concepts. If you would have did that, you would have had a particularly good gauge at everything. Look up the base game. Look at anybody else's concepts and the feedback they've got on it to see whether or not it's good or bad. Take a lark and just add something in. And if it's too short or too long, people in the forum can help you. If you don't particularly know about something, ask for the forum's help or their advice. People really love to give their opinion here. The example I gave the first time before everything went to heck is what you're doing is you're holding up a light up ball that changes colors, and you're asking people, what color is this ball? How bouncy is it? How far do you think it rolls? How far do you think I can throw it? How high do you think it bounces if I drop it? And a whole bunch of other information while it's sitting in your hand. The first guy can be a smartass and say it's a clear ball with an LED light inside. The next guy might say red. The next female might say blue, or whatever color that it's showing. You're not giving us any type of information, like the material it's made out of or anything like that, so we can make an accurate assessment over the particular ball. This is what you're doing with your concept. But the things that you do know about, yeah, it's got an LED inside of it, and the light, flashes and does all this other stuff. Yeah, but what's its basic functions as a ball? The information that we actually need. I could care less if you can flash 200 different colors and all of this other cosmetic stuff. What's its function of its primary thing? A light up ball. How does it bounce? How does it move? How fast does it go? Is it usable for a sport or hacky sacking or something like that? What's its use? So this disclaimer is just an excuse to be lazy and inaccurate. And to essentially say, don't yell at me for not putting down the information I know that you need. Don't do that. Simple disclaimer. I'm new at this, and it is a work in progress. I'm open for ideas or whatever, like you say. Anything's not set in stone. You're open for ideas for improvement, etc., etc. You can put any type of thing down anywhere like that, any of that, and people would understand. But to straight out come out and say that you've done your best to be lazy because you feel like you're not good at something is sad. You didn't even try. This is what this statement says. You didn't even try. Which makes me think, why should I even bother going through your particular concept? And then there's Cordy to say something. Let's see. The Drowned has standard killer stats. moving at 115% speed, and being of average height with 32. Why are you writing this? Why are you writing this? If you just said the drown has standard killer stats, that's more than enough. Everybody knows that's 4.6 meters per second, 32-meter tear radius. Tall is the one thing that you would have to say. So there you go. The drown. Standard killer sets. Space to set up the general overview, or you can add dash or some sort of things to separate it significantly. So it's not just one paragraph, and we know this is the description. I would just use the spaces. It makes it a lot easier, but like most people do. But to each their own. Shorten where you can shorten, explain where you need to explain. If you keep these things short, you can make these things longer and keep the same amount of length. Standard killer stats, tall. And then the rest of this, relative to a burly man wearing all of this other stuff, should be separated because this is a description of the particular killer. Somewhere. So you essentially just combined the regular stats, you know, the opening stats, and then the actual killer description into one thing. This, shorten, but by itself. The rest of this can go together in a second paragraph. The default weapon and all of this needs to go up with this beginning part. So you're gonna this, the first sentence, this as one, the rest of this crap. After that, you do not have an overview saying the drown's killer power is split in two, pressure gauge and hole fisher. We'll tackle those separately to explain them. That's not a killer overview. I'll say it again, and I guess I'll say it every day that I do these. I want to know what you envision your killer to be in a brief summary. I want a brief summary of everything your killer is and how you specifically see them being played. So I want what your killer is, and I want to know how I am supposed to play your killer. I want to know the strengths, and I want to know the weaknesses of your particular killer in an overview. We'll go off of the Huntress, for example. The Huntress is a, let's say, crazed ex killer or something like that, or a professional hunter or something like that, you know, whatever. That uses perks to ensure generators take a, or use perk, not monitoring, that use, I forgot the word. I'm going to give you a very rough sketch because I don't remember the word. That uses perks to ensure survivors cannot work on, or there we go, uses perks to interrupt survivors while they're working on generators, making them more difficult to do. She also has a range attack while she is pursuing survivors to punish survivors for making any type of rushed actions when within her view. The Huntress is particularly deadly when chasing after a survivor and if a survivor is going in straight lines. The huntress's weaknesses, of course, is any survivor that is hiding behind objects and are looping her in a particular manner to where she cannot throw a hatchet to hit them. That's very rough. Obviously, you have a lot of time. I'm doing this just straight off the top of my brain during a live stream. So you're gonna want something like that, but you know, like 100 levels higher. I explained that the Huntress's perks are made to stop generators. Oddly enough, trying to juke the Huntress before she's fully charged isn't a really good idea. Indeed, because of the sensitivity. If they would lower the sensitivity, like I've been saying for a long time now, you would be able to juke the Huntress whenever you want. But that's also why I said hiding behind objects and not being in sight is where her weaknesses comes, because when she's pulling out that hatchet and doing anything like that, she can't exactly hit you with said hatchet. Plus, there's the animation times and the exit animation times and things like that. But like I said, it is just a rough draft. It's not meant to be taken like completely seriously. It is not supposed to be critical. As well, I'm doing this off the top of my head as opposed to sitting down and being like, you know, the Huntress is the ultimate predatory pursuer. Her strengths are so and so and so and so. Her weaknesses are so and so and so and so. And then her perks allow her to go about and, you know, be like, yeah. Running in a straight line allows you to get more distance and behind an object faster. No, you never want to run in a straight line when there's a Huntress. And you don't have to fully charge a hatchet to actually throw that. Never run in a straight line when you are involved in the Huntress. I've played in a 4 killed many times, and I've also watched what's his name? Cookie? Something like that. I think his name's like Cookie. He's a professional Huntress player. Just to see what the top end of that is. But yeah, you can throw Huntresses hatchets at any time before they're fully charged. You can tap the button barely and she'll still throw it. It's just a slower throw. Huntress is about, you know, if a survivor's running towards a wall, you throw the hatchet towards the wall and you time it to where as soon as that survivor tries to get around the wall, you snipe them and get that hit on them. Or if they're trying to vault the window, you can hit them with the hatchet as they're vaulting the window. So any type of pre-jumps or panic movements that survivors do are good for Huntress, because she can easily get a hatchet into your back. Especially if she's using the iridescent ones, if they're still a thing and ain't been removed. She can down you with one hit of a hatchet, but she can only carry like 2. I mean, they're easy to juke regardless of if they're charged or not, if you know what you're doing. If you can moonwalk and you know the reads of where the hatchet's going to go, all you have to do is just move out of the way. They are slower before they're fully charged, but I mean, a good Huntress will hit you regardless if it's charged or not. Eerie heads are actively bad now since they limit you to only 1, no matter the other add-ons. So they limit it down to 1 now. And you can't add on back up to get more hatchets now? If they get rid of that? So they limit you from 2 to only 1 hatchet now. That's rough. And you can't get an add-on. Wow. That's rough. I mean, it makes sense, because I've ran iridescent hatchets before, and it's easy clapping. So you just wait for a survivor to drop a pallet or jump a window, and then you down them. And most survivors don't learn after the first hatchet, hey, maybe I shouldn't do forced animation actions. Maybe I should just continue through the pallet while he's charging up, and then force him to put his hatchet away and waste time and give me space. Like, nah. They changed it from reducing your count by 4 to making it 1, so it can't be increased or canceled out. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh yeah, they were definitely broken. I was tearing that ass up. They were easy 4 kills. You would literally just walk behind a survivor, make them panic, and then pop them with a hatchet. GG. See you later. Besides my doctor, one of the fastest games I had with the Huntress was about maybe 30 seconds. And I found a group of survivors who thought it was going to be funny to take hatchets for each other. And I just pulled out the secondary head, swap. Got the Starstruck active, down another one with Mad Grit. And then the last one was like, oh, I can get this heal in. Walked over, swat, knocked the fourth one down, took them all in, hooked them, just on to the next game. The instant I saw old Eerie head, I'd usually give up. I've never had problems juking Huntress, but I mean, I've had a significant amount of hours in. As long as you don't do the predictable thing like run along walls and go for obvious corners, you fake before. Because I mean, when you hear the huh, you know the hatchet's coming. So just fake the obvious direction that everybody knows you're going to go, and most times you're fine. Sometimes you have to fake like 2 or 3 times before you can get through. When you're going for a window or something like that, if you hear the huh, fake window before she cracks you in the back of the head with a hatchet and you go down. Yeah, as I said, I've been playing the game for a long time. So I guess I just instinctually know. Plague, though, Plague can get shoved. That's all I gotta say. I'm not bad against Huntress, but still. Yeah, I get the feeling. I understand. A lot of people don't. Granted, I don't play the game as much as I used to anymore, so I'm probably semi bad at it. But with the ranking system being made as easy as it is, it's kind of sad. But anyway, the drown's killer power is split, and we already went over that. Pressure gauge. The drown has a passive meter that fills over time, taking 60 seconds by default to hit its maximum. When it reaches that point, it resets back to 0 and all survivors scream, revealing their location. There is no limit to how often this effect can trigger, but the meter must fill back to maximum each time. What? There's no limit to how often this effect can trigger, but the meter must fill back to maximum each time. I guess he's being taking a preparatory action for if there's any type of perks that decrease killer's cooldown or something like that. Fair enough. That power could be so much more interesting if it wasn't just the same as what a perk can be. I just don't understand. So he essentially has a 60-second radar that makes survivors scream every 60 seconds. Wait, what? That's just annoying. It's like playing against the doctor, but I mean, the doctor actually has to do work to get people to scream every once in a while. So this is just a nerf doctor, scream aspect wise, that you don't have to do anything. It's like old school doctor. Yeah, pretty much, Doctor, but infinite. Well, back in the day, I had an infinite range Doctor build that I used to run. I used to walk around with my static shock ability out, and everybody would stay tier 3 madness the entire game until either they rage quit or I found them, because everybody knows at tier 3 you can't do anything. So I would just stand in the middle of the map like that till everybody got to tier 3, and then I would go out hunting. They couldn't work on gens, they couldn't do anything. Very busted. There's a reason why they changed the Doctor into what he is now. And people complain about him. I'm like, shoot, I'll take my old Doctor back. You won't be doing any gens though. uh I don't know what calm is unless you're talking about like the whatever spirits gig parks, but I would use distressing. He had a whole bunch of different tapes and things that increased his range and kept everybody things being within your tear radius from increasing passively. Ah, then probably. Yeah, don't ask me the name of the Doctor's add-ons. I couldn't tell you. I know tape. I know book. I know chess piece. You know, things like that. I don't actually know the actual names of them. The Doctor's rework makes him extremely weak, in my opinion. It was a huge nerf, especially to the way that I used to play Doctor. I used to really go through the process of his madness and all of that and keeping people, you know, tied down, even when I regularly played him. And the Doctor was slow because you had to switch from his weapon to his hand, then charge up his hand and blast people. So it was slow, but you got more effect out of that. So what ends up happening is you end up being slow when you blast, but when you actually do hit somebody and take the time to hit them a couple of times, they go up very quickly, especially with add-ons. Ah, I see. Makes sense. Plus, they remove the passive that if you were standing anywhere near the Doctor while he was in that mode, which he couldn't attack while he was in that mode, your madness would go up slowly. So if you go to a generator that you know somebody's at, you would just pull out your hand and you would stand there for a little bit to increase their madness till either they moved, ran, and or screamed. And if they screamed, you knew exactly where they were. With add-ons, it was fairly quick. How would you buff the Doctor? I would just return him to the way that he was before. I would just take away the ability to full wide map, you know, keep everybody in madness the entire time, and I would actually do things to his illusions that you see of him. I would make them actually, you know, be posted. If you're going through like Kill Shack, I'd put him behind walls to where he's standing there, and as you walk through, he swings at you. Or he'll be posted out, you know, wherever his spawn points is as you're walking by. You would see him with his red stand walking towards you and swinging. Or if they wanted to be lazy, they could just show in the illusion what the Doctor's doing at the time of, you know, what he's doing. If he's chasing another survivor, he'll be moving and you'll be seeing in his illusion what he's doing, whether it's swinging at a survivor, chasing a survivor, being stunned, you know, etc., etc. But all of that goes through the illusions. So if he uses his static charge or whatever, it'll go through the illusions as well. Add-ons, of course. As long as the stressing is a thing, I don't think reverting him would be a good idea. As the funny thing about it is the stressing doesn't give you a huge advantage. Well, the walkthrough one makes you scream like whatever that guy was that put that there makes no sense. Nobody ever walks through the illusions of the Doctor. Out of all my time playing against the Doctor, I think I've maybe walked through two, and that's since the games came out and he's been released. I think I've walked through two illusions that I was forced to go through. They always spawn a certain distance away from you, to where you would have to literally turn and run into it. So walking through it and it affecting you, I mean, it's a good passive, but it's not gonna rarely happen. I mean, they kind of nailed it with Hag when, they step on something, the Hag's image pops up, and then the Hag that's in that particular astral projection of herself, or whatever you want to call it, dummy of herself, turns and looks at you and follows you with her eyes. Something like that would be cool, except for, the illusion should move and do whatever it needs to do to kind of make survivors panic. Because if my illusion while I'm chasing a survivor around the kill shack pops up and swings at a survivor and it wastes their dead heart or something like that, that's positive. The illusions could spawn closer in front of the survivors or exist for longer periods of time. Yeah. Yeah, they can use zombie AI, they can use anything. They can use the killer AI. The game has default survivor and default killer AI. I don't know if they still have it because I think you can't go into private matches and use those anymore. But back in the day, they used to have default killer and zombie AI. You could play against an AI killer who was bad, but could give you a decent game if you were new, and you could play AI or with AI survivors. They used to be completely stupid. Now this is a I don't think it was by base. Like, I don't think Behavior designed this. I think this was a third party. But the bots were extremely stupid and loved to hide in lockers, or they would work on a generator while the killer's behind them, slapping them, and they would go back to working on a generator. That'd slap them again. But it was cool. It enabled me to test things and see the upper limits of the game and things like that and learn loops and everything. And I didn't need to have a buddy come in and stand next to me while everything was happening. And yeah, that's been long since gotten rid of. Because Behavior doesn't want anybody modding their game. Unless it's client side like everything else, which they have no effect over. Trust me, if they could affect client side things, they would probably get rid of that too, and a lot of people would be banned for having custom, animations and custom cosmetics and gauges and perk bars and things like that. A lot of people would be banned for running them. But unfortunately, you can never change anything client side. Yep, behavior being amazing as per usual. Yes, sir. Pressure gauge. Pressure gauge is weird. It's not that it's OP, but it's not that it's weak is what I mean, it is weak. It's kind of OP, but it's very weak at the same time. It's like looking like you're 16 and 30 at the same time. I don't know what I would really say to it. I guess I would say change it because one, a pressure gauge isn't going to make any type of survivor scream in real life or in fantasy game. That don't make sense. You would think that a pressure gauge would actually have to deal with something about pressure, like, oh, it's a pressure gauge. Or in this fantasy world, you can increase the amount of pressure, aka, which ends up being, like gravity or something like that that survivors experience, or anything like that. But yeah, I can agree with rework it entirely. That's just, it's not good. Now, if you're near a survivor and they scream because that 60 seconds is going off, it's kind of BS. So at bare minimum, you need to add in a clause that, if you're within X meters of a particular survivor, they will not scream. At the bare minimum. But I can agree with a rework to make pressure gauge actually have to deal with what it says. Oh, fissure. The drown has the ability to place down fissures on wall and other vertical surfaces. Okay. That are visible to survivors by their jagged, cracking look. Well, they're probably also going to glow too, because Dead by Daylight. This process takes 1 second for placing and can be activated instantly. When activated, fissures cause a spray of high pressure water to eject horizontally outwards from a wall, but okay. Extending about far enough to block off most doorways in the game. That's sheer laziness. But I already pointed this out at the beginning. It extends just about far enough to block off doorways. Well, that's useless. Absolutely positively useless. And two, it shouldn't have an instantaneous activation because that's just busted. Oh, I can block off every doorway in the game, up Kill Shack doorway, nobody's coming through here. And as soon as they do, I can instantaneously just activate my thing and do whatever needs to be done. There's no skill to this, there's no timing, there's no anything like that. I just snap my fingers and boom, survivor gets hit by it. Or door gets blocked off, or whatever. If a survivor is in the way of its spray, they are damaged, and it damages survivors. But either way, neither the survivors nor the drowned can walk through the spray. Now, he can't even go through his own spray. He's in a diving suit. What do you mean? This lasts 10 seconds by default. Now we're blocking off areas for 10 seconds. Gotcha. And the drowned may carry 5 fissures at one time. If the drowned attempts to place a 6, he must deactivate and extend a fissure. So, if his power is only good enough to block doorways, because he says it can go on, vertical surfaces, but if you're going by a doorway size, that's not going to do much. You might as well just highlight in the map anywhere that he can use his things, like between the small pallet gaps that have walls, like in the LT walls and jungle gyms and all of that. Those small areas, I'm going to assume windows and then doorways. You can literally just pre-mark those spots, and as survivors go through, literally just activate a trap. You don't need to place anything down. The instance I saw that disclaimer, I was disappointed. The instance I saw a disclaimer, I wanted to just go to the next concept. But I am at a sadly, sadly, small amount of content nowadays, so I'm just doing everything. Not even saying what buttons these take as well. I was going to get into that after all of that, or after everything, but yeah, that is true. The fissures can only be placed on walls, so imagine being on rotten fields. Well, I mean, it technically says any vertical surface or other vertical surfaces on walls and other vertical surfaces. So, I mean, there will still be some surfaces that he can use in like Code Wind farms and everything like that, but it's gonna be rough. Gonna be very rough. But I mean, honestly, this particular killer only really gets power from main buildings and kill shack. If you're not in the main building or kill shack, pretty much aren't getting any value from this particular killer. And if he had a custom map, that map's gonna feel very claustrophobic. But yeah, definitely like Trapper, but less fair. Because I mean, if he activates traps and kill shack and you run into it, you're going to take a hit going back out. There isn't no really faking it or anything like that because it's instantaneous. That's why there should be a small time where if they fake you, you know, they're not gonna immediately just get clapped. But yeah. um it takes 2 seconds to deactivate and can be done at any range. He can deactivate fissures at any range. So he can place them willy-nilly, look across map. Oh, I don't need that one anymore. So yeah, he's literally just a trapper, but less fair. Well, literally. But both placing and removing slow the drown down slightly. But activating does not. Oh, you're not even slowed while you're activating. Interesting. Activated fissures cannot be removed and are automatically removed once their duration elapses. Well, I mean, duh. You're activating it and it's squirting out water for 10 seconds. Obviously, it can't be removed. This is part of the overview, which he should have said towards the beginning. The goal of his power is to give the game its third true trap-based killer. No, it ain't. Going for damage states will take good placement and good timing on activation. No, it won't. But if one prefers to, they can simply use them to block off strong areas and go for the mouse one, giving the killer decent depth. For skilled players to practice and hone. There's no skill cap here. It's instantaneous use. Even a trapper has to go through with zoning and things like that. It's like, if you want a trap-based killer, use actual traps and make your killer be able to be used in every single situation. Like, I would hate to play against this killer on Gideon Meat Plant because most of the map don't even open up till you get breakable walls or finished generators. So you could literally just click, swoosh. Now where are you gonna go? Nowhere. You're gonna take these slaps. And the funny thing about it is, if you can run them in like the Gideon bathroom, if there's a survivor that happens to head that way and you hit them with the spray as they're going in, then after 10 seconds, you literally just walk in and clean up. Or like you say, as you both walk in, block off the only exit, walk over, slap them, let your cooldown go off, slap them again. That is a brain dead finish. I mean, it can technically go on any vertical surface, so anybody going for a basement unhook, you can just sit it alongside of the stairs where it'll fit. And bam, for 10 seconds, I can just trap you guys in the basement with me. Sucks for you. Because even if you're healing, it's going to take 16 seconds. My stuff ends after 10. Or if I'm on my way back and you just get that unhook, click. You're going to be stuck there another 10 seconds while I head back. Good luck. You're not going to have time to heal because I'll be there in 10 seconds. Broke. Kill Shack. 3 fissures. On Kill Shack, when a survivor walks in, you block the 2. When you walk in the last one, you block the one behind you. Survivor's trapped. So again, you're going to need, even if you don't want to go into detail, you still need basic detail on the particular fissures to stop anybody from abusing your particular power. There's going to have to be a range or something to where you can't keep sitting things down and just keep blocking. Because I could set a line of a wall and put 2 fissures on basement stairs. Activate one for 10 seconds, activate another one. Or I could put all 5 down, and that's 50 seconds of blockage. I can go down another survivor and hook them, and about every 10 seconds, look back towards basement, activate another one, and continue the chase I'm in. And when I get down to the last couple of ones I have, I can either abandon chase or finish up chase, and then head to basement. And they're just stuck there, just pissed, with that bra face. So no, this is not any type of true trap-based killer. A trap by nature is something that is set up to entrap something. You are not entrapping something. You are sitting something down, and then you are either blocking off an area or bopping somebody as they run through. Either way, add-ons, I'm not even gonna look at the add-ons. Just show me perks so I can get out of here. Oh, alright, there we go. Hex waterlog. It's hard to focus with the sound of water pounding in your ears. While this hex is standing, survivors working on a generator are afflicted with the oblivious status effect. This effect lingers for 10 seconds after the survivor stops working on the generator. That is probably one of the absolute useless hex perks I've ever heard in my life. Are you kidding me? You popped up a hex perk just to give survivors the oblivious status effect while they're working on generators. What is wrong with you? Like, actually, what is wrong with you? How does this seem like a good idea? Holy. Actually, no. I'm just gonna move on. Yeah, the worst mind breaker. Debilitating pressure. There's a certain weight to working at this depth. Every 4th basic attack inflicts exhaustion for 10 seconds. I'm going to ask 2 questions here. One, is it just every 4th basic attack, or is it every 4th basic attack landed that inflicts the exhaustion? Because, I mean, I could see this being part of a meme like backpack build with mad grit and all of those, where you can, iron grass, agitation, etc., to where you can just swing unlimitedly without a cooldown, 4 hits in, and then a survivor trying to block you or something, getting the exhaustion status effect. It don't do much, but I mean, it'll stop them from dead harding away when you catch them again. If they're not running, well, they'll be exhausted. So overcome wouldn't work. Dead hard wouldn't work. All of those wouldn't work. So I could see this as part of a meme build. If it's every 4th basic attack, you just kind of have to spam attack. Which kind of shows them that you have, mad grit and all of that in the first place. So, your trap card's kind of been exposed there. But afterwards, you could use this. Sort of. To prevent other perks from activating. Only in meme builds, though. It's useless in particularly any other thing, unless you want to literally swing at the start as you're going towards other generators just to get an exhaustion effect. So I guess it's a very meme perk. I ain't gonna call it completely useless, but it's pulling that line, towing that line. Good mean perk. Scourge hook. Riptide. Who knows how far a current can take the scent of blood? Hooking a survivor on a Scourge hook, the farthest survivor from you will scream, being incapacitated for 25 seconds. It's literally just a barbecue and chili that incapacitates them and keeps them from essentially doing anything important. You can't just take barbecue and chili, nerf it from the ore reading to just a basic scream, and then add incapacitated for 25 seconds. It's not how incapacitated's supposed to be applied to a particular killer and or pert and or concept. So again, I invite you to actually take the time to research the game that you are going for. This time, it's Dead by Daylight. Do some research, go through the forums, look at other people's ideas, and try to get some sort of sense of balance and learn more about how the game actually functions. Some people are made to play the game, some people are made to design the game. You, sir, are unfortunately moving on. And then the bios at the bottom, whatever. Thanks for reading. I'm curious what people think. I'm pretty pleased with what I've got here. Would this killer be fun? Is there anything you'd tweak? 40. Swear to God, if you say that this concept is good like you usually do, and then support him on his bad decisions like you generally tend to do, me and you gonna have a long talk, and I might 619 you on your next post. I like this concept a lot. Cordy! Cordy! Stop it! I like this concept a lot, Cordy says. I don't really have any major criticisms about it. Cordy, for fuck, Farger sakes. You do this every time. Every time. I wish you would stop commenting on individual posts. I want to pull you into a board of mine. And you can be the naive guy. I can be the kind of balanced guy. We can have Critty being the critical guy. And we can just get a board of people and we can do these reviews together. I think it would be very comedic and I think you would get a lot of views. Most of the time would be me saying, Cordy, shut the hell up. But I think it would be very comedic. Cordy causes me physical pain sometimes. You and me both. The one thing I'd probably change is which hit debilitating pressure applies to. Probably to 5th, 4th, 3rd hit, which is what he changed today. And he didn't even change it correctly. I just feel like the hit it applies to should be an odd number. What? Because typically your even number hits will be the ones that put survivors into the dying state. What? So exhaustion wouldn't do much of anything to them at that point. I mean, it's the second hit regardless, Cordy. It's not based off the particular survivor that you hit. It's based off the number of hits. And it's based off the number of swings as he implemented it up there. He didn't even add in the word hit. He just added in the number of swings. But doing that, it wouldn't even matter it being an odd number. And yeah, that's the one thing he had a problem with. Oh boy. Jester Kind comes back with, "That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Probably a good change to make with that in mind." At least he was a good sport about it, and then even changed it. He didn't change it correctly, but he did change it. So the only thing out of this whole thing that Cordy added was it was perks. This one. He added the 6th, 5th, and 4th basic attack to this. That's it. Cordy, you're a console, and for whatever reason, people tend to listen to what you have to say. Please further educate yourself on the game, because you are bringing this community down one stone at a time. I mean, he could be one of those people that just likes to let the world burn, but Jesus Christ, your naivety. I want him on a board. I want to join a Discord call with you, Critty, me, Cordy, and then somebody else. Actually, I want 2 other people. I want a killer main and I want a survivor main as well. I want 5 people to be on this board. And I want to create an actual series, which is probably going to turn into a comedy. Everybody needs to get acquainted to each other so we don't have any type of open arguments, where everybody's like getting all heated and cursing and things like that. I mean, obviously, it's going to have to be more professional. And I would love to run a channel based off of that. And we don't even have to do, all Dead by Daylight content. We can talk about anything and just have this kind of board going around because I think it would be funny as absolute hell going through and doing things like that. He's got a decent point having it happen on the 3rd hit so you don't have to go out of your way to hit a different survivor or swing without hitting. But still, that's the least important aspect. I'd personally make it the 7th, 5th, and 3rd. Yeah. So the first hit on every new survivor. I wouldn't even make it 7th, 5th, and 3rd. I would just make it literally the first time you hit, or if you hit a healthy survivor, said perk activates, and get rid of all of the 7th, 5th, and 3rd. Look at all that. And then just add a cooldown to the end. You hit healthy survivor and or shielded survivor, with the endurance effect. You apply the exhausted. Well, on first hit, you apply the exhausted status effect. It goes away when the survivor's put into the dying state, so you're not blocking any survivor trying to use any other perks or anything like that. Even though I'm not sure of any perks that, when you're down, affect exhaustion, but they might in the future. So they're just ground lay with that down to where they don't have to go back in and change said perk. It'd take me like 10 minutes to start telling people to shut up, specifically Cordy. Thank you for the contribution. Oh man. Well, yeah, there you go. That is one that will work in the actual dying state and will be blocked by that. So yeah, add that clause in so it doesn't affect adrenaline and you can get back up and continue with that in mind. Just taking that longer and more easier way so you don't have to say this hit, that hit, this hit, and go through all of that craziness trying to balance everything. It's simple. That, and now the player base doesn't have to count the amount of swings they've made as well. You can just play. So yours, I'm going to do back to back. This, I've already done. This is just a new addition. I think this has been reworked. I don't think anything else here has been reworked. Backstory's the same. I don't think I actually did this on stream. I think the first time this popped up way back when, I think I just skimmed it. And I skipped it because it wasn't very good back then. So perks, very minimum power. Yeah, I'll go over it real quick. I've already seen this, so let's just make it quick. Power is false trust. I don't know why there's a question mark like that. Oh, they probably tried to post an image or something up that wasn't correctly supported by this. Or they're just weird and did that. Firstly, the killer would have to injure the survivor into the injured state. Once this has happened, the killer can transform into that survivor and essentially act as one. While transformed, they can attack, they can emote, they don't leave blood trails, anything that specifically a survivor can do. However, the killer can work on generators, but instead of progressing them, they regress them using corrupted skill checks. If a survivor were to try and help the killer work on a generator, the killerator poofs back in regular form. Injure a survivor into the injured state. Come on. We know what they meant. It's overcritical. Funny, but overcritical. The killer instantly turn back to original form. If the survivor's not paying attention, they can grab them. If the survivor is trying to heal the killer, they'll be automatically grabbed and essentially go into the dying state and be put on the killer's shoulder. That was one of the things that made me instantly stop reading in GTFO the first time. If the killer has injured multiple survivors without mimicking, then the option to scroll between the injured survivors icon will appear, allowing them to select which one they want to mimic. Blah, blah, blah. They use directional buttons and console buttons and all of that. The killer can stay disguised for 30 seconds after mimicking an injured survivor, but can only willingly come out of their disguise after being in it for 5 seconds, which could be bumped up to 10. Takes a few seconds to return to original form, and even longer if the 30 seconds runs out. Obvious problems. One being that you can just walk around acting like you're injured, walk up to another survivor, and as soon as they try to heal you, bang, you're going to grab them, put them on your shoulder, and then hook them. Walk over, you injure another survivor, down them, you do the same thing to another survivor. Now, when a killer first comes out, that's going to be an issue. Afterwards, it's going to be simple to metagame. If somebody walks over to you and they don't do a teabag or something like that, then you're going to know, hey, that's the killer. That's the mimic. So you're not going to heal any survivors that don't walk over and do the whole teabag that, hey, heal me, dude, heal me. It's just hard countered by SWF and having eyes. Definitely. But I mean, that's kind of the point of hard countering the mimic. Most mimics do have an obvious thing, like having, a blood spot showing, or having red eyes, or having an accelerated heart rate, or not bleeding, or bleeding out a different color. I mean, there should be some obvious thing that states that this killer is the mimic. But I mean, again, in the beginning, Mimic's going to be very powerful, but once people learn the meta against the Mimic, it doesn't work. There's a game called Prop Night that is essentially Dead by Daylight, but cartoony, I guess is what I'd say. And they have a Mimic, and it works very well. He can turn into props, and he can double jump as a prop. Oh yeah, there's also prop, because it's called Prop Night, but, you know, things like that. You can literally walk in, he can be exactly or do the same things the other survivors do. You can walk up, you can slap him. As soon as he pops through, instantly transform, etc., etc. This is kind of what that person's trying to do, except for, I guess they've never seen Prop Night to see how the true Mimic should be played based off that. But that's not what I'm here for. Obviously, this whole thing needs to be extended out, needs to be reworked, and needs to be better to be put into the game. And also, can't copy any other games. So it's going to have to be its own Mimic. This ain't here. This isn't here what I'm here for, though. I want to see these perks. Perks. Do you trust me? If a survivor were to begin working on a generator with another survivor, there is a 90% chance they will scream and receive the oblivious status effect for 20 seconds. Do you trust me has a cooldown of 60 seconds. Do people just think that the oblivious status effect is just meaningless nowadays? Do they just add it on to their perk because, you know, oh, this oblivious isn't that great, I'm just gonna throw that on to the end of it. People won't care. People have been disrespecting the oblivious status effect here recently. My perk does all of this, and I'm gonna throw oblivious on the end of it just cuz. There's no point in them getting the oblivious status effect. You're telling me that they scream so hard that their brains are freaking jumbled and they no longer can perceive a killer coming near them. If anything, screaming's going to activate their adrenaline and make them more self-aware, and they're going to notice everything. Get rid of the oblivious, because it makes no sense to have it. If your killer's a stealth killer, it'll already be implemented into your regular killer. Stop trying to make regular killers with regular terror radius stealth killers. Just separation and a difference for a reason. Stop. You have your hyper stealth, like Wraith. You have your regular stealth, like Ghosty. You have your low stealth, like Pig. There's levels to that for a reason. Use the goddamn game's mechanics and stop throwing oblivious and everything. Oblivious is very weird. Oh boy. Obviously, that perk's not good. I could just run Discordance. Yeah, you have your good stealth, workable stealth, and bad stealth, pretty much. But I'm not gonna say that. That's your words, not mine. So, Discordance. Easy. 100% of the time, the generator's gonna light up and you're gonna know where they're at. You can make a plan to do whatever. They're not gonna be known, or they're not gonna know that you know that they're there. You can set up a trap and do whatever you need to do with Discordance. With this perk, as soon as they scream, they're probably either going to stick to it and know that the killer's on their way and just look for them, or they're going to immediately dip if they're cowards. Not a good perk. Use Discordance. Paranoia. After hooking a survivor, any fully healed survivor received the exhaust status effect for 20 seconds. Why? While any injured survivors will scream. Paranoia has a cooldown of 80 seconds. On my life, what is paranoia? So this person made a weak base killer and is trying to use the perks that he's designing to be the power or the crux of said killer that he already has. And that's going to be an issue because every killer has access to these particular perks. Do not design perks as your killer's secondary and tertiary power. Just give them to your killer. No point of giving any survivors the exhausted status effect for 20 seconds after somebody has been hooked. That makes no sense. Injured survivors will scream. That makes even more no sense. So you're 2 out of 3 in no-nos. Hex, trust no one. If any survivors were to be within a meter radius of each other for 5 seconds, a certain effect will occur. 2 survivors will have killer instinct for as long. It's a proximity discordance on generators. Where, well, it's just a proximity discordance that doesn't work. It's just always active. Killer instinct if they're together with 2 survivors. 3 survivors, oblivious status effect. Oh no. And will also receive previous effect. 4 survivors will receive a previous effects and will begin to bleed, having to mend themselves or go down a health state. It is called the deep wound status effect. And that makes no sense. All 4 survivors are just standing right on top of each other. Yeah, 1 meter radius is very small. Essentially, what he's trying to do is bonk survivors for either all working on the same generator or all healing one person. That's the only time you're going to get activation there. Or if you're all standing, I guess, at an exit gate, but you're not going to all be within 1 meter of each other at an exit gate, though, so kind of useless there, too. Most gens don't even allow 4 people to work on them either. So, And then the other people on the opposite side of the generators from each other, I'm pretty sure, unless their hitboxes go inside the generator, that's not going to cover either. But let's just say, for simplistic sakes, anytime that there's any type of cooperative actions, this effect's going to occur, which makes this a huge no-no. And he's managed to strike 3 himself out there. So there's a reason I skipped this entire concept. The first time that it popped up, way back when. So yeah. All that leaves left is some guy named Critical Fish. Never met this man before. Who decided to throw Jeff the Killer in my face. I'm still watching you, Critty. Yes, I'm petty, so here's my take on this disaster. Oh, man. At least you know. New killer, the sleeper. Ryu, the sleeper, is an agile killer, able to attack from anywhere completely undetected. Okay. His personal perks allow him to put a timer on survivors, with 1 push being all it takes to send them to their deaths. Beautiful. Appearance. Yeah. Speed, same. Tear radius, same. Height average. Primary power, Silent Stride. Clicking the power button will activate Silent Stride, making the sleeper undetectable for 30 seconds. Or until the sleeper uses a basic attack. This has a cooldown of 20 seconds. But Ghostface though. But Ghostface though. If a survivor is not sprinting, once in basic attack range, the sleeper can assassinate them. An assassination immediately downs the survivor silently. Assassination takes a total of 1 second. Jesus Christ, you just walk up behind them and slit their throats? Holding the active ability button allows the sleeper to climb over walls, pallets, and walls. No. No. It takes 1 second to climb over pallets and windows, while it takes 2.5 seconds to climb over a wall. The sleeper pauses once on top of a wall, being able to look around and drop down anywhere from the wall. While dropping, a survivor can be assassinated no matter what they're doing. Now we're playing Assassin's Creed, Batman, Spider-Man. Obviously, this is a meme. You're trying to salvage the other Jeff the Killer concept. I get it. Secondary power mutilation. Once a survivor is down, the sleeper can hold the active ability button while standing above them in order to dig his knife into different body parts. This takes 4 seconds. That survivor will be hindered by 15% until they're healed. They also have their healing, repairing, cleansing, sabotage speeds reduced by 33% until they're healed. If the killer doesn't give me much room to make interesting things. I mean, you can make it interesting. You just have to really dig, really know your stuff, and take that extra time, which most people don't like to take, to make it interesting. Because heck, I have ideas just to make the basic trapper better. Will they be implemented? No, because it's broke as all hell, but it's interesting. I looked through his wiki page, which is way more than I wanted. At least you did it. I mean, obviously, all of this is a meme, so I'm not gonna harp on it. Them perks, though. Oh, them perks. Scourge Hook Funeral Pyre. You were born in fire. Those you hunt deserve to save luxury just before they die as well. At the start of the trial, Scourge Hooks. When a survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook for the first time, this perk gains 1 token, maximum of 4, obviously. For each token, hook progression on Scourge Hooks progresses 6% faster. Wait, what the hell? For each token, hook progression on Scourge Hooks progresses 6% faster. My dude. Jesus. I mean, it has an interesting balance to it because it's building up 6 to 6 to 6 to 6. So, I mean, yeah. But Jesus. I could sort of see Monstrous Shrine there. Granted, the majority of the match, you're probably going to be locked at 12% progression, speed increase, unless you search for every other survivor or if they just perfectly are running things to where one survivor chases and gets hooked in the other one. So unless they spread out the hooks, you'll be locked at about a 12% progression speed most match. Oh, I don't know what I would do there, honestly. It has to go to public test beta to see if it's properly balanced or not. Funeral Pyre could be more interesting if I were to ever remake this, but you know, Drew. Like I said, I can't call it balanced and I can't call it unbalanced as well. Because I mean, it has to be on a specific hook, for one, to get that token. Two, okay, I guess one of the questions I should ask, being a semi professional in this, is when you first hook the survivor, is that 6% applied to that survivor being hooked or the next survivors after that? Hmm. So I guess that's what I should typically ask. As long as the token is there, it's applied. So the first survivor that gets hooked immediately gets their time pushed up 6%. So it isn't going to affect second phase hook, it's going to affect first phase hook. But I mean, 6%'s not that much time. I mean, even 10%, if you look at the 120 seconds in total, it's just going to be 12 seconds faster. If it didn't apply to the survivor who was hooked, the token wouldn't be added there until unhooked. Possibly. The reason I asked that is you run into that kind of gray area that, like it says, when a survivor is hooked on the Scourge hook for the first time, this perk gains 1 token. So, literal in definition, after they are hooked, the token then ticks up. Which means technically, by Dead by Daylight terminology and all of that, it wouldn't apply to the first survivor being hooked. They get kind of a get off jail free card or card, and that would counteract if you spawn right next to a killer, you still have your full time. That's why I asked that question. But you know, you've already clarified, and you said yes, it applies for the first person. So if they go down quick, they're screwed, and you lose 6 seconds off of each phase. Losing 6 seconds really isn't that devastating. And that's at, you know, if you're going at 10%, that's 10%, just losing 6 seconds. Isn't that devastating? Because you have perks like kinship and things like that, and borrowed time, etc., to just get them off the hook earlier. So this perk isn't really killing them faster, it's making survivors make a move on them faster. Which I'm looking at this from the backwards way of you're literally forcing a survivor off of a gen 6 seconds earlier, which is 6 out of the 80 seconds, saving you a very, very, very minuscule amount of time. So, that's that. Public test beta will sort that out though, and behavior will balance it if they ever adapt it. It's not bad, but it's not significant as well. So, who knows? Honestly, I've been kind of hurting for perk concepts since I have so many killer ideas, so I'll slow down on concepts until I can make them more interesting from now on. Now, don't get me wrong, it's interesting. And taking the basement hook of ideas and applying them to Scourge hooks and all of that, which I did do a review. It might have been your concept, it might have been somebody else's, I don't know. That literally pasted word for word of the basement hook perk, and they literally just applied it to the Scourge hooks. And I was like, bro, you can't do that. You're literally just taking that perk that isn't even used anymore and applying it to Scourge hooks. But I do remember another concept like that. You at least incorporated in a way to where it's slightly different. So yeah, I said that'll have to go through public test beta balancing. There's not really much I can say. It's interesting, but it's not very significant, is where I would say my final opinion lands. I ever did that, I'd delete my forum account. God dang. Darkened dreams. Sometimes you remember what you threw away. Do they remember too? When a survivor is hooked, any objects they interacted with for 60 seconds before being hooked are revealed to you and yellow for 20 seconds. Any survivors they healed or were healed by are revealed in red for 5 seconds as well. Hmm. 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 I'll say the obvious issue here, since it's an actual perk, is this is just a, well, I guess it's not an issue, but it's is a tunneling perk. Any killer that's based off tunneling, you know, Bubba, for the main example I like to use, is probably going to run this perk. You knock a survivor down, you hook them, the other survivor runs around, and if you don't get back in time to re-down them, if they're going for an immediate heal, and they get that heal, you can down that survivor again. You'll get a 5-second ping on the other survivor, which you can then go and directly pursue after that as well. In that case, usually the other survivor tends to, you know, dilly-dally around and will be within strike range of that Bubba. Same as with basement, things like that. If there's a killer or a killer survivor that pulls a survivor down off hook and they immediately heal them, and then you down said guy again and you hook them, you can see whether or not that person just sprinted and GTFO'd or if they're hiding somewhere waiting on you to leave, and you can continue tunneling survivor after survivor after survivor. So, I mean, this is a very good tunneler's perk. Um, the objects they interacted with isn't really necessary because, you know, Franklin's demise that does that anyway. But the survivors they healed or were healed with, and getting that 5-second beacon beacon of where they are is where the power and the crux of that is. The primary idea was to give you a trail the survivor went down before you found them, so you can go undo anything they did. Like pallets they dropped and generators they repaired. That's a pain. If that's the case, I guess it does say any objects interacted with. So that's items, that's pallets, that's generators, that's all of that. That would annoy the ever living hell out of me. But that's because I don't like to particularly see a whole bunch of bright things on my screen that isn't necessary. So as I said, if I don't want them to run items, I would run Franklin's Demise, the generator that they were working on, etc., etc. Generally, you're going to know what generator they're working on unless you just happen to run into them as they're walking by, which then in that case, you know, they were doing something in that general area that you found them in, or they were walking across. So the only thing that you would generally want to know where they were coming from is if it was like a boon totem or token. Yeah, boon totem, possibly. But I mean, you can hear those. So yeah, the objects, interaction, and all of that, especially 60 seconds before that, that's quite a lot of time. It's going to include windows they hop through, you know, like you said, pallets slam, generators touched, totems touched, like all of that is going to pop up, item, etc., etc. So just the kind of light beacon that you'll get from the survivor that healed them last would be decent. Very good tunneling perk. Perk idea I'm including on a concept of making an opponent has the reverse of this perk, being where you kick a pallet or generator, you see the aura of a survivor that interacted with it. I've reviewed that perk on somebody's concept before, as a matter of fact. I don't remember the name of it. And the issue that I had with it is being any type of speedier killer, and well, the or reveal of the particular survivor and how long it was. I actually remember it vividly because a lot of people were arguing about that particular part. Yep, I've already done it. Yeah, I can tell you exactly what I said because of that part. As soon as you kick the generator, let's say, again, I'm gonna bring an instant down killer or anything that's I had a killer that can either apply an effect that can easily down a survivor or, any type of instantaneous downer. The problem you're going to have is survivors will have no way to effectively hide from this. Now, the person's perk that I did had like it was like 10 seconds, like 8 to 10 seconds, if I remember correctly, of aura reveal. And the problem that I brought to mind was if you go and gen patrolling and you see that a particular survivor has been working on a generator, you are now nullifying the effect of the particular survivors to be able to avoid you. If you have a scream effect that's applied, any survivors that are within X amount of meters of said kick generator scream or anything like that, could be something. Oh yeah, the also another thing, the person put that they separated it. When you kick the generator, it shows the aura of the last person that interacted with the generator, so it didn't mark multiple survivors. That was the one thing that I agreed on, is it shouldn't do anything like that. The other thing that I harped about is it prevents survivors from being able to hide. So as soon as you hear the killer's tear radius, if they're even, a non-stealth killer or anything like that, as soon as you hear the killer's tear radius, you have to GTFO. You can't walk out because they're just going to walk to the generator, kick it, and know where you're at. You can't run away or they're going to see your scratch marks. You can't hop a window and then sneak out the other side because as soon as they kick the generator, you're going to light up like a Christmas tree. So what's essentially going to happen is, as the killer's walking towards the generator and the survivors hear the tear radius, survivors are just going to have to go for it. It's going to be an instant chase. And if they try to do anything funny or anything like that, obviously they're going to get tagged. If it's survive with friends or something like that, an SWF, they can kind of partially counter that if it's a room full of randoms. Until it happens to the particular random, they're not going to know. They're just going to be chilling, hiding on the other side of a wall. You're going to kick the generator, look around, look to where they are, walk around the corner and get a free hit on them. It isn't fair for the survivors when it comes to something like that. Because, even barbecue and chili, which is at a set distance, only gives you 4 seconds. Which, again, I bring up that you should not know where exactly the survivor is going, etc., etc. You should just know where the survivor is and whether or not they're going to leave or whether they're going to stay. And 4 seconds is enough for that. So, man, same thing I did, last person within 30 seconds or 3 seconds. Well, doctor's a thing, so for the myriad of OP 1v1 killers, it'd be really annoying. That's kind of a thing, too. You are kind of encroaching on the doctor's ability, too. Doctor is all radar. Unless you run a perk to counteract, you know, the screaming. What is it? Calm spirits? Yeah. Unless you run, I think, that perk that prevents you from screaming. Doctor will be all up your butt. Especially if you run Doctor Man like I did. You never escape me. Never. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to hop into a locker and all that. Yeah, but if I static discharge and I hear no scream from you and I know you're nearby, I'm going to start zoning and checking lockers until you either show yourself or I find the locker you're in. You have very good detective skill and perceptual skills. Doctor is brain dead. Very easy, very strong killer. I can break pursuit with you if I zone you in a particular direction, kick a generator, and then get back in pursuit and or just reping you, bam, and find out where you went and continue chase. Or pressure another survivor, then reping you after I dealt with them, and recontinue chase. It's the ultimate radar with the Doctor. That and the ability to stop survivors from dropping pallets, etc., etc. Stopping actions is good as well. But you, that particular perk you're working on, I mean, go ahead and implement it. It's your design. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to agree with it. You're not going to get a positive review from me if it's an aura read from a generator kick. It's not fair for survivors. If it was a radius, you know, after kicking generator and any survivors that interacted with generator and said radius, and it wasn't like huge, gets revealed. So if anybody's hiding just on the other side of a window or something crazy like that, it doesn't affect them. Obviously, it won't affect them in a locker either way. So that's fine on that aspect. But I mean, if I hop out the back and I run to a tree on the back side of the map, I shouldn't be pinged and now trapped against the outside of the map, zoned, where I'm going to get that slap. Where was I? Two Scourge hooks. Interesting. Scourge hook. Fight for your life. One thing I never looked into, do Scourge hook effects stack? Like if I was to run pyramid heads, not pyramid heads, what the hell? Pinheads perk. And then run the artist perk. Do they both activate? Or if I was to run two perks that gets tokens from Scourge hooks, do they both activate? I'm assuming so, but that's not anything that I've tested or looked up to see if multiple Scourge hook perks. They do? Gotcha. Hex perk with a cooldown on its effect shouldn't be too bad though. Well, the thing about it is the cooldown's kind of irrelevant because you're gonna immediately go from kicking a generator to knowing where a survivor is and immediately assuming chase after them. So by the time you either win the chase or lose the survivor in a chase, the cooldown's up and you just go to another generator and kick it. You're literally taking away the hide and seek aspect of the game and you're just playing seek. So, hex perks don't necessarily have to be strong. And I think that's probably a common misconception that I actually brought up either yesterday or the day before stream. I don't think you were here when I was talking about it. People take Scourge hooks and hex perks and all of that, and they're like, oh, it's a hex perk. I can make this perk super overpowered because it's a hex perk. And I'm like, no. Hex perks have limits. They're not the end all be all, you know, God perk. Hex perks is just one of the limiters to where if you have something that is uncanny and shouldn't be activated throughout the entirety of a match, you can deactivate it, like Ruin, for example. Ruin, if you ain't touching or working on a generator, it's regressing. It's an always on effect that should be able to be removed because it's always on. It's not that Ruin is super powerful, because most of the time people run Ruin. I just hop on generators and continue doing them. I don't care if Ruin's in effect. New Ruin is kind of bad. Ain't gonna lie to you, it's kind of bad. I tend to make perks hexes if they interact with the mechanic or are absurd if they exist for a long time. And that's one way to view it. New Ruin is more balanced but stronger when it's working, in my opinion. Well, Old Ruin is just all about your skill. It's just that simple. I can hit great skill checks consecutively. Old Ruin made me into the gamer I am today. I can keep hitting those great skill checks, so Old Ruin didn't really do much for me. People back then got good at the game, and if you weren't good at the game and you were new, Old Ruin would tear your absolute crap out of you. New Ruin's automatic. You ain't got to worry about it. You don't have to worry about focusing on skill checks, which takes your eyes away from the areas and things around you, so you could be snuck up on easier with Old Ruin. New Ruin, you just hold the button, everything goes at regular speed. I don't know, it's just weird. I kind of wish they would have applied New Ruin and Old Ruin, and they would just combined it in together. When you ain't working on it, it decreases, and when you're working on it, you keep hitting it. Old Ruin said no. New Ruin breaks gens when the killer is pressuring them. Like I said, I wish they were both combined together. Old Ruin was just skill based. Old Ruin didn't really do much to you if you could hit those great skill checks. New Ruin doesn't do much to you as long as you're doing your job and working on gens. I mean, in essence, the killer can only chase one person at a time. Now, if you're all together, dual Jennings, but regression speeds are painfully slow, though. I think New Ruin's progression speed's decent. I mean, you lose 1% every 2 seconds. So that's not too terribly bad at max. And then regular, it's 1 for 4. 1% for 4 seconds, or 1 second for 4 seconds. Doesn't matter how you go. So, I mean, it's not too bad, but I do like it. Like you're saying, New Ruin requires killer to know how to use it. Old Ruin requires survivors to know how to play against it. And that is why I prefer Old Ruin. It's a hex that's been applied to survivors. It shouldn't rely off of, for the most part, the killer having to keep survivors off of generators to get them, regressing and things like that, and proper gen patrolling and things like that. Ruin had the dual purpose of, well, as previously stated, making survivors be efficient at their skill checks, and it makes it to where their eyes are off the game around them and focused on the great skill checks and getting them. So there's dual purpose of Old Ruin. They took out the entire aspect of, diverting your attention from something else to, just hold button and do gens like regular. But if you do leave that gen, just keep in mind that it's regressing and you need to go back to that gen. As I said, I can see the other side of it. I mean, the New Ruin being killer based and all of that, And the killer has to know how to work Ruin, and it gets its value if you can manage to move survivors off of generators, etc., and play the game for what it is. It does require, knowledge, great knowledge, and great skill to use it. But at that point, why make Ruin a hex perk? Why not just make it a regular perk that they can't turn off and reward the killer for gen patrolling and, not doing anything crazy? I mean, yeah, you could stack it with pop, which made it real strong. But the reason it worked is because people couldn't hit them great skill checks. Because, like missing a regular skill check, it would stop the generator from being worked on for about 3 seconds, and then you would get that regression as well. I think it was like 3% back then. It wasn't too terribly a lot. But you essentially lost out in about 6 seconds if you got a good skill check or a skill check. And then if you missed the skill check, obviously the generator goes boom, and you ended up getting regressed a lot more, and you still missed out on those extra 3 seconds that you can get on it. And back then, you would get a decent amount of skill checks, especially if you're running other perks to increase the amount of skill checks. And then, like you said, with pop being on top of it, I don't know. It's just different. It's experiencing both. Back in the day when Ruin was a thing and I was more newer to the game, when Ruin popped up, it was like, ah, hell nah. I gotta go and I gotta get rid of this shit. Like, I have to find that hex totem or this is gonna be a fucking hell of a game. No matter how good I play, I'm going to keep getting dinged and it's going to be annoying. Especially when stacked with other killer, perks and things like that. You could get a very OP Ruin build in the past if you stacked the right perks. So you had to stop, and everybody had to find that. Then I got good, and I was like, it's just Ruin. It sucks that I'm doing everything slower, but I can hit these great skill checks, and if I missed one, it's only going to be like one or two anyway. Ruin nowadays, I'm like, there's Ruin. Okay, and I continue to work. If I run across the hex totem and I have additional time, I'll break it, but if not, it doesn't really matter. Because if you use your basic strategy, where everybody goes to different generators and one person runs killer, you're going to pop immediately 2 or 3 generators right off the bat. If you do the right way and you get 3 generators popped, well, you'll pop 1, 2 will be right next to it, within the next 5 or 6 or so seconds, and then the third one will pop generally like 10 to 20 seconds after the next one. And if you get that 3 pop at the beginning of the game, Ruin's not that bad. Even if you get a 2 pop on gems, Ruin just lost most of its power. That's 40% of its effectiveness gone. Now, on the last 3 generators that survivors have to do, the killer has to be on it. You can't go into extended chases. You have to play a specific script to keep that effective Ruin. So, like you said, it's all reliant on the killer knowing how to play the particular perk. Whereas old Ruin, it didn't even matter. Ruin still makes the early game easier for the killer. How do you figure? If the survivors are walking over and working on the particular generator, they're not getting affected by Ruin. I mean, am I missing something? You see, old Ruin, good skill checks result in a 5% regression on generator. great skill checks are 0 progression. Whereas New Age just has a 200% regression speed. So as long as survivors are touching said generator, there's no penalty. I mean, both of these two are essentially balanced to each other. Don't get me wrong. That's why this got changed to that. This ended up equaling out to this when they got done rebalancing it. So they are the same. It's just that beginning game, Ruin isn't the strong. This one just happens to go throughout the entirety of the game to give you continuous, you know, baps or boops on the snoots of the survivors. Whereas this really cranks down on survivors when they're not touching the generators. So this just has a medium effect throughout the entire game, while this has a tremendous effect when it's in effect. If you understand what I'm saying. The problem that I have with new Ruin is what you're saying. It requires the killer to use it rather than it's just working. You are applying a hex to a survivor. You shouldn't have to use said hex to your advantage. Like Devourer of Hope. You just hook survivor and then you walk away and you get token for it. You shouldn't have to, you know, do things to essentially make your particular hex perk pop. I know there's some exceptions to that because of how the game's balanced, but Ruin-wise, it started out as a sit it and forget it hex. It should have stayed as a sit it and forget it hex. But it is what it is. Like you said, because of Blight and Bubbas and things like that, of course, it makes sense, but, you know, eh. You prefer happen to play hard. You like hard mode, is what you like. But unfortunately, setup killers and slower killers are hurt super hard by the change. Well, that's why Ruin's not made for them anymore. That's why Ruin's made for Hag and things like that, that, you know, can teleport back and forth or essentially get from generator to generator. Or running killers, speed killers, things like that. Gen patrolling killers, there you go. That's what Ruin's made for. Like me playing Ghostface, Ruin is completely useless to me. And I would be wise to replace it with something else. That at the end of the day, besides marking, if you're stealthy enough, Ghostface is a mouse one killer. Yep, made for blights and spirits of the world, exactly. So I said, if you can get to gens and keep interrupting, you know, like legions and things like that, and keep interrupting back to back to back to back. Or there you go, run corrupt intervention, which corrupt intervention, in my opinion, needs a passive. Because I mean, blocking off generators is decent, and I mean it's a decent amount of time, but well, at the beginning of the game. Blocking off generators, I think it's what, 3 minutes or something like that. Corruption. Corrupt. Like 3 minutes. Blah 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 blah. Time? Three generators located as farthest from you are blocked by the entity for several seconds. I would be pissed if it's just several seconds. Somewhere in between several seconds and 3 minutes is how long corrupt intervention lasts. How are you going to go to the fandom forum and they're going to give you a generic behavior answer? 2 minutes. So there you go. 80 seconds, 100 seconds, 120 seconds. It lasts for 2 minutes. I was partially correct, by the way. Macho. Mr. Oh, it's 3 minutes. I checked. I sat there and timed it. Lying sack of shit. 2 minutes. Did it? It said it above what you were looking at. Am I blind? Regenerators. I am blind. Holy shit. 120 seconds. There we go. Thank you. 120 seconds. So I can lay that in the dirt, and I can also message Macho after this and throw that shit in his face. 2 minutes, motherfucker. It happens a lot, sadly. I knew it was like 1 or 2 minutes, but Macho kept harping that it was 3 minutes. I'm like, it's not 3 minutes. He's like, it's 3 minutes. Like, no, 2 minutes. I'm not going crazy. Now I forgot whatever else I was talking about. Literally just. But yeah, Lethal Pursuer and Corrupt Intervention definitely would have having a passive would be nice. It's like, oh yeah, I get this boost or bonus the first little bit of a match, and then that perk slot's gone forever. Dang. I'm not gonna lie though, I wish they would take Ghostface's perk where when you pick somebody or yeah, pick somebody up, it blocks gens for 16 seconds that ain't being worked on. I wish they combined that with Corrupt Intervention and drop Corrupt Intervention's time from 2 minutes to 1 minute. I would love to see that change in those perks combined. So passively at the start, where you can't down a survivor and block everything for 16 seconds, you have an effect for that perk. And then as you're playing and the corrupt intervention part deactivates, you get the next passive that if you pick up any dying survivors, gens are blocked 16 seconds with the cooldown at the end. I believe it's like 30 seconds, a minute, somewhere around there. I don't remember. I only run the perk every time. That's fair though. One of them would need a new perk. I would combine them, make it, I don't know, corrupt shadows. I don't know. And just get rid of both or deactivate both of them and then just combine them. But I mean, there's a lot of perks that need to be combined. It like the sprint burst and the live and the balance landing and all of the different types of smash hit. All of those need to be combined into the Omicron perk, where when you make said action, you get sprint burst, or just make it to where you press said button and you just get the sprint burst and you don't have to worry about doing a specific thing. Extend the cooldown obviously up a little bit because you can decide when you want to do it, but I mean, like, Jesus Christ. you know if its cooldown's like 45 seconds, keep it maxed at 60. If it's cooldown 60, make it a little bit longer because you have a lot of more options. But Jesus Christ, so many perks that are out there that do the same thing, just in a different situation. Name the perk parkour and incorporate all of it into one perk. Or free running or something. I prefer having to choose which scenario you want a speed boost in. Exactly. I mean, the cooldown obviously is going to have to go up some, but speed boost whenever you need speed boost. And then if you want, you can apply all the passives like balances, landing, stagger, and things like that just by naming the particular perk parkour. Add in all the little small text from all the other perks. And like I said, obviously you're going to have to increase the cooldown to balance that out. Especially if you want to make it activated whenever you want. Oh. Happen to choose before I'm in the game. There is a concept that I went over. The concept was crap, but they actually brought a different view of how perks were going to be implemented. I don't remember exactly how it was, but it was essentially you can pick and choose what perk or what effect that you want. You can add in, let's say you want it sprint burst and you want it to add dead heart to it and you want it to add, whatever you want it to it. The game would then adjust cooldown, activation times, or anything like that, and then you could run just one Omega perk. Granted, to run the Omega perk, though, one, the particular perk is going to make one of your perk slots useless. Two, the longer your Omega perk is, the longer, you're going to be exposed for, the longer you're going to have, different issues. And this works for Killer and Survivor to select what perks you want to have. So if you want Infectious Fright to have a barbecue and chili effect, you can combine them together, but then the negatives on that's going to be amplified, accordingly to make it balanced. And it opened up a whole new possibility of customizable perks, like you're saying, but it makes it just, crazy. And you can make like pre-loadouts for particular perks, and you can select, during that minute or so you have before a game to pick exactly what you want your loadout to be before you go into a specific game. And I thought it was an amazing idea. It would just take about a year of implementation to get it perfect to where the cooldowns, are equal to the different perks and things like that. Because, I mean, obviously, somebody's going to want something crazy. As I said, it's just a small concept. Don't like the idea, but it's definitely cool. 10 years for behavior. Yeah, it would take a significant amount of time. They'd probably have to hire somebody that's not part of the company to design all of that on their own and then present it to them. It would take forever. But that's not even the thing. Going into Dead by Daylight, that perk was necessarily for. Behavior is working on another game that's similar, or it's in the same genre of, Dead by Daylight, the survival horror, and all of that stuff. They've been working on it for about 2 years now. And hoping something like that can be implemented into the newer game to give you loadouts or whatever that new game is when they release it. It's more for that than for Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight's set in stone, and if they added the ability to customize everything, the community would riot. People don't like change. Nobody wants to see any type of changes. Because by being a game developer, it's really hard to do. If you change anything, people are going to argue. If you don't change anything, people are going to argue. So what do? um, Scourge Hook, Fight for Your Right. I've seen this before. Did you use this in another concept, or have I reviewed this before? When the survivor is hooked on a scorch hook, all other survivors become exposed for 40 seconds or till the survivor is unhooked. Have you used this before? Because I remember going over some of these before. Then I've seen this in another concept then. Obviously, that's a no-no. And then Jane Richardson. Boom, prying eyes. You always have eyes on your enemies. Press and hold the active ability near a totem to bless it and create a boon totem. Not the creatiest view there, so I wouldn't be too shocked. I don't know. I just seen that I've seen this before. The only thing that I think is different is that the auras of survivors weren't shown, or they weren't screaming or anything like that while being exposed. Obviously, I gotta say no to that particular perk for obvious reasons. Whenever the killer's aura is revealed to a survivor, whether or not they're in the radius of the boon, all survivors within the boon's radius can see the killer's aura as well. For the first 10 seconds of being chased, the killer's aura is revealed to you. Drop that to about 5 seconds. And we could probably make a discussion about it. I've played against cheaters that had ESP and could see me through the wall as I was being looped by them. It's not very fun. I've been on the other side of things where, you know, I have a perk in the game being Ghostface, who still only gets 6 seconds of that. So that's why I say around about 5 seconds. Sounds decent. I mean, not bad. If you end up in a chase, I mean, it's about the same as if you ran empathy or something like that. It just gives you location on killer without them being injured. So it's not bad. Yeah, let's say it's not bad. And they have to be in the boon's radius to see where the killer is for the 5 seconds. And unless it's like a 3-gen situation, this perk isn't going to have any type of significant power. Tinted lenses. When you repair a generator for 20 seconds, this perk gains 1 token. So you can get 4 tokens in generator. Gotcha. The time you see the auras of survivors and killers when it's shown to you is increased by 1 second. Pretty. Why? The time your aura is revealed to a survivor or killer is decreased by 1 second. Why does this whole thing seem familiar to me? I feel as though I've seen all of these before. And you're sure you didn't have this in the past or bring this back up again? I'm having severe deja vu. Obviously, tinted lenses, I have to say no, because, again, you're going to have 10 seconds of it being chased, and then you're going to have tokens extending the duration of that. And that's anytime the aura of survivors or killers are shown. There's also no way for totems, I keep saying totems, tokens to be consumed. So once you get these tokens, which you can get 4 on a particular generator, there's no way to get rid of them. So if I was just running a key, for example, to reveal killer location, I would tap the key. If the killer's near me, I will immediately have anywhere from 4 to 7 seconds of aura reading, and I can just keep tapping that key. And while I'm using that key, this perk combos off of this perk, and anybody else that happens to be in the Boon Totem's aura will also see the location of the killer. That is an extreme amount of aura reading, an extreme amount of survive with friends shenaniganeries, or regular single or solo shenaniganeries that can happen. Survivors being hooked. Somebody walks through, taps that on the killer. Everybody else in the totem sees that the killer's way across the map. They can then head to an unhook or finish an unhook or do whatever they need to do. If it's SWF, at the beginning, have that person complete said generator. And then one person stays in the Boon Totem's aura. After completing the generator, they just boon it up. They sit on one side of the map in the aura. One person runs around with key or any type of aura reading for anything that happens to pick up killer. And then they have like a radio tower of somebody just telling them where the killer is at all times. So yeah, you didn't think of it working with keys. Yep. There's something. And then discerned and denoted. You have a knack for telling what abilities other people are trying to hide from you. For the first 5 seconds, a survivor or killer within 16 meters of you is affected by haste. You can see their aura. This has a cooldown of 20 seconds. What? I could make it cap out at 2, 3, 4 seconds, making 40 seconds per token, and have the change be by 0.5 seconds. Well, one, I would make it to where you can, after the effect is gone, I would make the tokens be consumed. There's one that still makes that person have to be active in the game and not just build tokens and then radio tower to everybody else. It would make it after you get that aura read, it extends it, and tokens are consumed. Then you have to go to another generator and have to work on that a significant amount of time until you can get more aura reading. Time like that, you can mess around with, balance things like that, and it gives you a little bit more customization as well. If not, I wouldn't even bother setting the amount of tokens per second. So I would just make it when generator's prepared, you get 5 extra seconds of aura reading, and just keep it very simple. Boom, 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 boom. Also, you don't want a survivor who necessarily isn't a team player working partially on a gen and then walking away from it. Short comment section. Vino, Tinto, Arg, or argument, or just Arg, I don't know. Oh, Vino, Tinto, Arg, I get it. Funny name. I did not see it as part of the game, neither him or any other creepypasta. The power and perks very well thought out, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. Really? You don't see Jeff the Killer as being as part of the game. It has nothing to do with Jeff the Killer except by name. We're talking about the concept itself, guy. The power and perks are really well thought out, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. Who the hell cares whether or not it's worth it or not? You can easily change the name from Jeff the Killer to Jeff the Dog. It doesn't matter. You need constructive criticism and feedback on the concept itself. So dumb. Grip TV got featured, so it's possible some of them could be part of the game eventually. As I started this post off, though, this was made entirely because someone else's YouTuber, Jeff the Killer concept, was god awful and they were being stubborn as hell with fixing it. You're right, everything can be ... Okay, smartass. Besides, you thought everything very, very well worthy of a dev. Besides, you thought everything very, very well worthy of a dev. In my opinion, creepypastas don't deserve to be in this game, but you know, haha. Way to be openly prejudiced, dude. My opinion, you shouldn't be in the forum. Actually, way to be very openly prejudiced. I can't spell apparently. It's my... God damn it, I do that every time. It's mom. Not in mine. Shouldn't. I just... Okay. Alright. I gotta go ... And him with the smiley face. Way to be very open prejudiced, this guy. In my opinion, you shouldn't even be part of this forum. Simple. He needs to sell his copy of the game and he needs to find something else to play. People with attitudes like this and can't take good work for what it is don't need to participate. Obviously, just a stuck up, probably gotta be Gen Z, because that's all they do online is disrespect people. And then when you engage them, they run away with their tail between their legs. Makes me absolutely sick. Then you meet them in real life and they want to be all respectful and, nah, man, I'm chill, I'm chill. I'm like, nah. This isn't my best work, far from it, but you know, he thinks, no, it's like he said, you did a good job, despite him being an asshole and ignorant and prejudice and a whole bunch of other things. He did. He said you did a good job, and you did do a good job. You put everything through, everything's, you know, out and about, your ducks are in order, everything's explained for the most part. It's not really a bad concept. It's very good, especially compared to the other Jeff the Killer that we're not going to talk about right now because I feel my blood pressure going up immediately. You did a very good job. I was going to say a very well good job. That don't make sense. You did a good job. Great job. All of this, I'll probably never go over. That is through behavior. Behavior will say whatever they want to say on their own forum. It's not for me to say. Chapter concept: Everlasting Conquest. How long is this? It's been 2 hours though. God damn it. Why are you so thorough and everything? Oh, fudge. Power, secondary power. I can skip add-ons. Perks, not too terribly long. Survivor, that'll be, for the most part, faster to go through. This will probably take me half an hour if I don't get distracted. It's not too terribly bad. So I'm going to go over this today because it's the final thing on the forum. Besides Galanonim's, whenever he submits his, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go through this. I apologize if I'm not as thorough as I could be. I will try to be, but I can't specifically say that, hey, I'm going to be just 110% thorough. I finished Splinter Cell Blacklist yesterday, so I can go ahead and insert this and extend everything over for a while, because I read your comment. I understand it's been a while. So I can extend the stream a little bit because I'm not going to be putting out any content tonight because I have no content. You know, I might like hop on Rocket League or something, but Rocket League's brain dead for the most part. So I'm going to finish this concept and then I'm going to get me some food. I'm starting to get hungry, as a matter of fact. As always, I woke up and I immediately headed to my computer because I said, oh, it's round about time. And I just jumped right on. New killer, the Invader. Why does that remind me of the Invaders arcade game with the little sliding ship that shoots the little aliens coming down off the screen? Anyway, the Invader is a conquering killer using his abilities to keep control of large areas of the map. Oh, a monitoring type killer, huh? His personal perks give him great amounts of strength at the cost of frailty. Well met, well said. Man in a heavy suit of armor. His weapon is Makahuti? Makahuti these nuts now. Oh, it's one of these with the wood, and then it has the metal sticking out of the end, which occasionally is saws. Yeah, seven blade obsidian blades. The name is derived from Nahutu. Nahutu? Naru? Language and means hardwood. Did you actually just these nuts me, or did you? I just get these nutted? Jokes, but in another language. Also, no, don't use my microphone. Um, Pronounce. Say it. Say it.
With several embedded obsidian blades. How do you go about pronouncing this word?
Say it.
Makwahuitl.
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 Makwahuitl. Makwahuitl. Gotcha. Shall be formally known these nuts weapon. Makwahuitl. So it's like Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. Anyway, I'm done joking around. Speed, regular speed 4.6. Tear radius 32 meters. Height, tall. Primary power, landmark. Landmark can be used by holding the power button for 1 second, during which time the invader cannot move. Oh. This will place a red flag in the ground. Flags cannot be placed within 12 meters of a hook survivor. Hell yeah, brother. And when a new one is placed, while 3 already exist, the oldest will disappear. Within a 24-meter radius of the flag, the invader moves at 0.4 meters per second faster. So 5 meters per second. Gotcha. And can see the auras of all vault points, pallets, totems, and chests in yellow. The only thing that catches my attention there is totems, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it kind of sucks for a survivor that's using boon totems, though. It's kind of a direct counter, but I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. If a survivor makes a loud noise notification within 24 meters of a flag, they're marked by Killer Instinct for 5 seconds. But Ghostface, though. But Ghostface. But no, that's fine. You just need to add a cooldown to the being marked by Killer Instinct for 5 seconds. Because if not, and the survivor's just, rolling through every time they make a quick action, hopping through a window, to doing this, to doing that, they're going to keep continuously getting marked. And God help them if they're in chase, or if you're in chase with them. Running, jumping windows, all of that. They're just going to stay marked. I mean, technically Ghostface is real. It's just he wasn't a killer. But he's real. He exists. There was a movie. There was all of that. You can physically go out and touch a ghost face. He just might not slaughter you and then take a picture of you after you're dead. Nah. Oh, fair enough, I suppose. Fair enough. But I would ask you to fix the mark by Killer Instinct so somebody's not getting marked over and over and over and over, especially in chase or anything like that. If it's fixed later on, don't worry about it. But as of what I read now, that's the only real problem I see is the Killer Instinct mark being able to be replied multiple times back to back to back to back. Survivors can disassemble a flag through a 9-second channel. It is disassembled 33% faster for each additional survivor attempting to disassemble it. So what you're telling me is one survivor can take 9 seconds or 2 survivors can take 6 seconds to pull a flag out of the ground, essentially. What? Now we're talking, now what's not real. What's real and what's not real. But no. I mean, yeah, it is kind of Dead by Daylight logic, but Jesus. um, hmm. Taking a piece. Hey, you have to first put out the fire. Then you have to unwrap every individual thing from the bones. And then you have to do a small incantation and pray to the sun god for everything to go poof. But I mean, on the other hand of that, boon totems, they seem to take forever too. Just stop. I've been making that comparison for years. I'm like, if survivors are just breaking the totems, why don't they just walk over and just kick that shit? Be gone, thought, and just kick that shit across the map. Like, I'm done with your shit ruin. Just walk over, just stomp that shit to the dust and continue on their way. I don't know. I would like a perk that I can instantly get rid of hex totems and I just get like a deep wound. Actually, I would take an injure state if I can just instantaneously walk over and stomp on a perk. I don't care if the entity retaliates. Just let me get rid of it. Just, I stomp it, it's gone. I'll take the health state damage. Let me get rid of it. That's, on another subject farther up the line. True. Yup. Just get a perk to stomp on a totem, but you get burnt. Essentially, yeah. Whole point of that. You just stomp on it. In exchange, you get burnt and either get, I guess it'd be deep wounded. Somehow you stepped on it too rough and the skull shattered and went into your foot or some shit. And you got deep wounded, or just give me the injured state and let me go on my day. Easy trade. Anytime for me. Anytime. 9-second channel isn't going to matter. And what's kind of funny is if you go by the breaking down a Demogorgon's portal versus breaking a totem, how similar the times is, it's kind of insanely funny. Secondary power, Vanquisher. Vanquisher charges while a survivor is hooked within a 24-meter range of a flag. Interesting. It takes a total of 20 seconds of a survivor being hooked in that radius for Vanquisher to be used. Demos is faster, like 10 seconds. Yeah, Dead by Daylight logic. It takes a decent amount of time to break demo portals, but breaking a totem's comparable to it. That's a joke. So essentially, you want to, either before or after a survivor is hooked, place a flag down. 20 seconds of the survivor being hooked near that flag allows Vanquisher to be used. Before reading any farther of what Vanquisher does, just from that, is it viable to hook survivor, place flag, and then camp for 20 seconds to make sure they don't do it to get Vanquisher? Or is it worth it to just plant the flag and then walk away? That's essentially what I'm going to be looking for. Because for the most part, you can guarantee Vanquisher being active every time you hook a survivor. So, before reading anything further, Vanquisher can't be some super end-all be-all perk, or you're going to have the issue of your killer being from a pursuer to a I'm gonna camp, get this ability, and then go blank stuff up. Oh no. Oh no. Did your table break? Oh. Once Vanquisher's charge is full, hold the active ability button for 3 seconds. Will activate it. The invader is not slowed during this time. Once Vanquisher is active, a map-wide sound effects is played. With Vanquisher as active, the following effects are applied. Survivors within 8 meters of the flag are marked by Killer Instinct. This lasts for 5 seconds after they are no longer within that radius. He said, nope, Vanquisher's broke. The invader moves 1.2 meters faster within the radius of the flag, rather than 0.4 meters per second, and the invader moves at 4.6 meters per second during his animation after hitting a survivor. Vanquisher lasts a total of 40 seconds or until there are no flags currently placed on the map. While Vanquisher is active, the invader cannot use landmark. I mean, I ain't gotta say it. You know. You know. I ain't gotta go there. Add-ons I generally don't look, but I am interested in the iridescent. Iridescent armor while standing within the radius of a flag. Pallets that are dropped immediately break, but can still stun the invader. Vanquisher takes 10 more seconds to activate. Golden Chain. While Vanquisher is active, if a survivor disassembles a flag, they're marked by Killer Instinct. 30 seconds! Or until Vanquisher ends. The radius of the flag is reduced by 4 meters. 30 seconds? 30 seconds? My God. So you're losing only 4 meters down to 20 meters worth of radius. But they're marked by Killer Instinct for 30 seconds or until Vanquisher ends. How long does Vanquisher last again? Vanquisher lasts a total of 40 seconds. Now, you know that Killer Instinct is something that never leaves a survivor. If they hop in a locker, Killer Instinct still shows them. No matter where they go, Killer Instinct will always show what they're doing, where they're at, etc., etc. Well, not what they're doing, but where they're at. So if you are going to do something like this, I would definitely cut the radius of the flags more than 4 meters. I would also add it on to that, or as an additive, make the flags pop quicker. Way quicker. Way, way quicker. Like 5 seconds quicker. They should be able to be popped very quickly. That way there's a sort of a counter to it. I mean, you can either camp the flag and all that, you know, whatever. But if a survivor elects to take that camping hit to pull the flag out of the ground to prevent that from happening, you know, they're then training their health to get by this particular effect. I don't know. It ain't got to be like 10 meters per se. Just make it, you know, equal to iridescent add-ons. Like you said, Huntress only has 1 hatchet nowadays. Make it, you know, on that level or whatever the Huntress or whatever anybody else has that's iridescent, you know, nerf like that. Well, not nerf. It's actually a huge buff, but balance like that. I need a new activation requirement for Vanquisher, though. Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of when it comes through is I'm like, I could just plant said flag and then camp flag till roundabouts it's about to end, and then I can walk away. By that time, any survivor that's going for the unhook is going to immediately run straight for the unhook. So you could generally only have to sit there for about 13 of the second. Actually, no, because it takes 10 seconds for a survivor to pull it out. And it only takes 20 seconds to activate. So after you camp for 10 seconds, you can then run away. And as soon as the other survivor comes in for an unhook, bam, that effect's going to activate. That survivor's like real quick boy, like he's actually stealthing in and staying out of your tear radius, etc., etc. Then I mean, you know, you might want to camp to the last like 5 seconds if you got suicidal survivors. Maybe chase survivors for 20 seconds. Well, 40. That's gonna be a probably have to sit down and think about, even though nobody likes to do that. And you're never gonna get a full balance on it because that's gonna have to be tested public test betas wise. So you're gonna have to have a heck of a sit down to think about that, and then you're never gonna get a 100% balance. You just want to get around an 80% efficiency. Once you hit that 80%, send it to public test beta. Let behavior and other people that are playing kind of curve the perk to where they want it to be. It's possible. 20 seconds within range of flag. I really can't say much on that, honestly. Vanquisher is such a, oh, it's such a hard activation to get balanced. And there's a lot of activations, some that even I'm not thinking of. He said BRB. See ya. Chronophobia. The fear of your empire falling apart over time drives you to eternalize it. We have a war city. The start of bloodshed is always marked by its first scream, and then Hex Challenger. If this is your life now, you might as well enjoy your meaningless fight. Then we'll be going over the Survivor, Alexander Monroe. All of this is by Critical Fish or Critty in chat. um, First perk, Chronophobia. When a generator is completed, this perk gains 1 token. For each token, your tear radius increases by 4, 3, and 2 meters. So it's not a perk based off of return to see your reaction to these godforsaken perks. Oh, take your time. Like I said, it's all archived. You can see it whenever you want to see it. Off the bat, I thought Chronophobia was going to be something that works off of tear radius increase, but no, it doesn't seem to do that. I guess it's balanced on tear radius increases. See, 32 meters at, what's its max? Its max is 5 tokens. Oh, you're just going to the bathroom. Fair enough. 5 times 4 base is an extra 20 meters, which gives you 52 meters. So if I was running my doctor build, I would never upgrade this perk. That is an extra 20 meters of tear radius that I can add to the stressing. And that's a lot of tear radius. 2 meters? Meh. So just off of thinking of other killers, I would definitely think about increasing the upwards of that 4 tear radius increase per token. Because like I just stated, I could get an extra 20 meters of tear radius on my doctor. And since, what is it, static discharge goes off of that, that is very significant for that being stacked with the stressing. That is a lot of tear radius. Terrifyingly, a lot of tear radius. um, I might make it 2 meters to give a max number of tokens. Well, I mean, it needs a max number of tokens, definitely, but the max number of tokens has to be above 5. And generally, you would limit the max at whatever it is, 5, unless you can lose tokens. But I don't know. Let me read through this first. 1 token does absolutely nothing but increase your tear radius. 2 tokens, after a generator begins regressing, your movement speed is increased by 10% for 10 seconds. Obviously, it cannot go above 5 since there's only 1 per generator. True. There you go. So it's inherent in the perk itself. That makes things easier. So at 1 token, there isn't really any effect. So neutral When no gens are completed, you have nothing. And when a generator finally does get completed, you're still going to have nothing. I recommend putting something there for 1 token. Even if it's something just completely stupid. Not useful at all. I mean, it's a 1 token perk. It's just level 1. It ain't gotta be anything special. But I would put just something. First main issue comes in the 2 after a generator begins regressing. Well, I guess there isn't really a hard fault of that. It just comes in mind that it's unique interaction with Ruin is what you're going to have at this 2 token. After a generator begins regressing, you're going to be getting intermittent speed boosts in 10-second intervals. Doesn't say that it stacks, but I'm going to assume that this effect does not stack. And if it does stack, shaking my head, I'm going to assume this effect does not stack. If you have survivors on generators and you're running around with this speed boost and a survivor working on a generator that has Ruin, let's go of said generator. You're going to get a speed boost every time. And every time you run against that unique situation with Ruin, like at the start of the game, or at the start of the match, again, you're not going to have much. The 1% increase in regression speed, there you go. For number 1. For number 2, like I said, each individual time you chase a survivor away from said generator, which is generally when they're going to be running in the first place, unless you somehow catch one just out running about, then it's kind of a question of what are they doing there. You're going to be coming up on a generator. The moment they let go of said generator, you're going to be moving at 5 meters per second. I don't think there's any other speed boost, right? Besides the Vanquisher effect. Yeah, you're going to be moving over a little bit, over 5 meters per second. Unless there's already a flag present, then you're going to be stacking that on top of that particular thing. I'm in Survivor Perks. But the most scariest thing about it is I picture Blight or Legion or Bubba zooming across map, or even Billy zooming across map. Somebody hearing their tear radius as they're coming through, letting go of generator and giving them even more speed. That is terrifying, having an already supersonic Billy or supersonic Bubba getting even more speed, and if they're corded, when they use their chainsaw, they're going to get even more speed on top of that. That is terrifying. Now, generally, you're going to get at bare minimum. Okay, I say bare minimum. Generally, you are going to get 2 generators done by the time you hook in the first survivor. Your average. So you're going to be at 2 tokens fairly quickly towards the beginning of the match, and you can have access to that speed boost after your first chase. I don't know. It's just that unique situation that you have when you're gen patrolling. You can get a 10% boost off one person as they run away from their gen, and you know they're no longer working on it if they're not, if you get that speed boost. So then you can go to the next generator within that next 10 seconds and pull that person off the generator. And as the timer starts to decrease, you're going to keep adding the 10-second timers stacked. And when one's at 8 seconds, one will be at 10 seconds, and one will be at 6 seconds or something like that, or however much time it takes you to go. But you're increasing your speed by 0.46 per generator that you go for or go towards, which is ridiculous and can stack. Albeit, only with Ruin this happens. And it's in a certain circumstance that you manage to pick the correct generators in a row of where survivors goes. Or, if the survivor's just stupid and trying to troll on a generator and they keep touching a generator, letting go, touching a generator, letting go, touching a generator, letting go, and they do it to themselves, then, they kind of screwed themselves over at that point. Kind of on them. 2 and 4 both stack disgustingly with Ruin. 3. When a survivor is hooked, all generators are blocked for 16 seconds. God damn it, Ghostface. When the survivor is hooked, all generators are blocked for 10 seconds. It seemed fine. You're already beyond the halfway point of the game. 4 tokens. When you hit a survivor with a basic attack, all currently regressing generators begin regressing 100% best. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh my. So 100% is a fourth. 200% is a half. 300% would be 3/4. And I'm just going at the 1/4 increase. So every 3/4 of a second. Now it'd go backwards. Because that's 1 for 4, which goes to 1 for 2. So you would be looking at. It doesn't go down to 1 for 1, does it? It's like 1 for 1.5. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting, but that reaction was gold. God. 5 tokens, you become undetectable. What an interesting thing to put at the end of all generators being done, is giving the undetectable. Who does that benefit? I guess any killer that doesn't have a lullaby and or a chainsaw or anything like that benefits from it. You can run that with NOAD and a whole bunch of other perks to get those invisibility taps. But then I go back to the appearance. And I picture a tall man in a suit of armor carrying the D's Nuts weapon. And I think about this and I'm like, does this actually benefit this killer? He's a tall boy shining in armor with a fairly decent sized weapon. Does it benefit him? It does also cancel out the tear radius increases. I know this kills the end of my doctor build. But I guess it should once all the generators are done anyway. Oh, the undetectable at the end, I mean, it's not. It's weird. It's very weird to be put in at the end. Because you can make essentially any basic, killer that doesn't have any type of external noise. Song, lullaby, things like that. But I try to think about it, and I'm not pulling out a super long list of characters that can benefit, or killers that can benefit from that. I mean, it doesn't hurt them in any way, except for, Doctor, because the terror radius increase is gone. I guess it hurts Legion too, because his Fury literally is pointless because his tear radius is what gets that. So you're nerfing Legion and Doctor by all generators being completed. I think those are the only two that heavily rely on tear radius. Mm. Yeah, pretty sure that's it. I don't know. I'm just kind of skimming my brain. Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's what I thought. And then persons benefiting from it. I mean, stealth killers are obviously stealthy. I guess it allows Pig to run around undetectable. But I mean, if she uses her dash, you can still hear the oink before the dash. But she can run around undetectable. So that's another one. Pig, Trapper, Michael Myers that isn't, trying to be stealthy can get that stealth at the end. Especially tier 5 wise. Uh Demogorgon, but he's obviously a big bright blue boy. Bubba, Billy, well, you're going to want to use Billy to travel. And if anybody hears heading towards him, the undetectable doesn't matter. Bubba, on the other hand, gets terrifyingly frightening, because he moves fairly quick. And Demogorgon is very loud, very bright as well. Death Slinger, that's who would actually get a heck of a benefit from that. That's who would get benefit from this perk. The ability to set up, ambush, and then just chink somebody, especially if their exit door, doing the survivory things where they're doing all that BS, injured, doing all of that. Yes, Death Slinger. This is his perk. That's it. Tear radius increase. It is what it is, but it's not gonna hurt him that much. Nurse, death, well, the teleport sounds give it away. There's a situation and where Nurse can get benefit of that. But I mean, any killer that's carrying a survivor moves at a base speed of 4.6 meters per second. So any killer, essentially, holding a particular survivor can take advantage of this if they don't have a lullaby or song or anything like that. Ooh. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of a toss up. Some would really love this perk. Some, like Doctor, are just completely crushed by that perk. You have a good run, then at the end, it's like, oh, hard nerf. Nothing wrong with that. Warcry. The start of the bloodshed is always marked by its first scream. When a survivor is hit by a basic attack, all survivors outside of your tear radius scream and become exposed for 40 seconds. This can only activate once per match. You are testing the upper limits of my review skills. Interesting. All survivors outside of your tear radius screams, which would be the opposite of infectious fright. You then expose them, but then you try to cover that exposure by only activating once per map, huh? Or once per match. You know what I would say to that? And I would actually say that this perk, for the most part, doesn't have much use. Because you're only getting 40 seconds worth of use, so it's like corrupt intervention and things like that. It's a scream, so you get their general location. If you're nowhere near, because it's outside of your tear radius, you then have that set 40 seconds to get over to where they are, pick up their trail, find them, chase them, and then put them down. So I would have to say this isn't too terribly useful. Because it takes a lot. You have to have the perfect situation to where they're right on the edge of your tear radius. It can give you an immediate strong start, so I think it's a worthwhile trade. I want to hear you go into detail about this strong start. Because the moment you hit a survivor, which I'm assuming that's the survivor you're going to be chasing, let's say you spend the small amount of time to look around and see which generators the other survivors are. You are going to spend that time looking around, you know, during the cooldown and all of that, and you're going to have to immediately continue the chase. I mean, yeah, I guess technically if you have like a huntress or something like that that doesn't have to necessarily use your basic attack, or a Bubba that just goes all chainsaw, you can get a use out of this particular perk. Faster killers can go to one of the exposed survivors for a quick down. But you're still trading a survivor for another survivor. By the time you essentially do the Legion chain tack where you hit one survivor and then you find the locations of other survivors and you speed on towards another survivor for that instantaneous down, get them picked up and get them hooked, you can really only get one survivor in that particular time. So you can either commit to the first survivor that you find, down them, get everything set, get everything hooked, etc., you know, the chill chase, and the perk's gone. You can use the Legion chain tack. You can hit a survivor, go to another survivor that's healthy, and then down them. Or you can save it for any time during the match, but it's really only going to give you one down unless you wait it till the end of the match, and then you get a super chain of downs, like at the exit gates or something like that, where you can just bam and then bam and then bam and get them all knocked down. So slug tech. So you're either going to get one down or you're going to go for slug tech where everybody's down and you're just going to hope to God that nobody can pick themselves up. And if you don't get that particular setup, or if you don't hold it and wait for a particular setup, you have a dead perk most of the game. Demo specifically is insane with this perk, I think. Heck, I think Bubba's insane with this perk. You literally just go and chainsaw everybody. And then you can just find somebody else, hit them, and then find out where everybody else is. And then mouse one and or just continue to go through. Once portals are up, you can just down a survivor with the basic attack and just go. That's true as well. There's a lot of people that can benefit from the perk. But I don't know. I don't see its usability at the one chance that you get to make it pop. And if you just happen to go after a survivor that knows what he's doing, you're screwed because they're just going to loop you the entirety of the exposed status effect. And yeah, kind of screwed. But even with the Demogorgon, it's just a scream. It isn't any type of anything else. So, I mean, you'll have a location of where they were, but not necessarily anything like that. So, I mean, they can go for a risky locker hop, or they can walk or crawl or hide in any type of nook and cranny, and you're on a definitive timer of 40 seconds to get everything done. So, Warcry, I'd have to say it's weak and very niche in activation. I kind of like where it's trying to go, but it needs something else to support it, or you're going to have a dead perk majority of the match, regardless of when you actually activate it. And then we move to Hex Challenger. If this is your life now, you might as well enjoy your meaningless fight. When this perk is cleansed, the survivor who cleansed it has their aura revealed to you for the remainder of the match. I guess it's a worse Unbreakable. It doesn't work every game, but when it works, it's pretty good. Man, anytime I run Unbreakable, I get instantly picked up. It comes to the point to where I should just tell my friends, I'm running Unbreakable, grab a flashlight. Killer don't look around, they don't check to see if anybody's nearby. Nope, they just boot me and scoop me. That's the end of it. I hate running Unbreakable. Never get it to work. Now, Hex Challenger. When this hex is cleansed, the survivor who cleansed it has its aura revealed to you for the remainder of the match. Just that line right there can cause problems. Hex Undying. You can get one survivor with that. It'll switch to another area, and if a second survivor breaks that, that's two survivors' auras that you will have revealed to you for the remainder of the match. So just off that, plus it's aura reading for the entire match. For whenever it was popped, if it's at the beginning, that's an entire match worth of aura reading. Or if it's towards the end, I mean, it sucks, but I mean, an in-game aura reading is good too. He said, oh, for fuck's sake. While in the chase with that survivor, their stuns last 25% longer and they recover from negative status effects 20% faster, but you move 15% faster. This does not stack with killer or survivor perks. mm. So, if this does not stack with killer or survivor perks, you're not even getting the second activation with that. You're only getting the negatives from that, but you're getting two aura reads. Unless you mean the entire perk doesn't stack with itself, then there's no point in running Hex Undying with it. So if it can't stack with itself, then Hex Undying's useless in this situation, and now you just have one survivor whose aura you can see the entire time. And the only way to nerf this would be set a timer, sort of like echolocation and sonar and things like that, but then object of obsession already exists. So there is a configuration of things that you're gonna have. I'm taking this chance to say it cannot stack with itself. Ain't fair enough. I don't know. Just having one survivor, no matter what they do, you can see at all times, just doesn't sit right with me. It's gonna end up being a rage quit. I was trying to think of a way to balance this, like something simple, like you have to be within like 16 meters of the survivor or something like that. But then I'm thinking about the fact that, oh, once you're in chase, you can't escape this killer. They're going to relentlessly pursue you in that aspect because they don't want to lose you because you're, easy prey. Once they come near you, they're going to instantly go for you. It don't matter if they're mid chase with somebody else. If your aura pops up, they're going to come around that corner. They're going to slap you, you know, because they know you can't get away from them. So balancing and doing all of that's very rough. um, I mean, it's not really that insane if you think about it. Their stuns last 25% longer. Let's say you get the longest amount of stun, and that being decisive, a 5-second stun. A quarter of that time is going to be what? For the sake of just rounding things up, decisive being a 5-second stun will last an extra second. Round it up. It'll be more than that. It'll be like 1 point something, wouldn't it? So let's say decisive lasts an extra 2 seconds. We'll go really rounding up. 7-second stun. But you can't work on generators or do anything like that in the interim period. And for an extra 2 seconds on that decisive stun, you're going to be marked for the rest of the match. Decisive deactivates after that 1 7-second stun, and for the rest of the match, in exchange of that, you're going to be marked. Pallet stuns and things like that don't take very long. They're roundabouts, what, like 3 seconds or so? And I know if you use the whatever it is, what is it, enduring, it takes it down to like 1.5 seconds. So I'm gonna throw out a rounded up ballpark number of like 3-second stuns. A third of that said I'm rounding up is gonna say it's an extra second on top of that. They're gonna be stunned at a pallet for 4 seconds as opposed to 3 seconds. And they're just going to immediately know where you're at afterwards. The recover from negative status effects faster, I mean, is cool and all, but you got to keep in mind you're letting the killer move 15% faster. So any type of stun effects that they receive, they're going to be able to make that distance back up fairly quickly. You're looking at 0.46 plus 0.23 on top of it, so 0.69 added on top of the 4.6. You're going to add 0.69 on top of that to get whatever. I think it comes out to like 6.58, 6.48, 6.58, somewhere around there in your speed department from that. I can make ore reading be only in chase. Well, that's kind of the issue that I was trying to balance in my mind, is if you made it to where it was within that area or being in chase or anything like that. Either, I don't know, it's just the survivor isn't going to be able to get away from said killer. You can force an end of a chase easily just by staying out of the killer's sight for a little bit, but I mean, after that stun and all of that, the killer just needs to go in the direction they know that survivor went in. So you have to be extremely adept at your chase ending game and hiding game in order for the killer not to just continue chase. So I don't know. That is a balancing catastrophe. You're going to be spending a lot of time trying to fix that. The idea was to practically make the chase a duel, which is painful to implement. Yeah, buddy. Indeed. Good luck with that one. My brain hurts and I've only thought about it for a second. So I can only imagine what you feel. Good luck with that one. I'm going to leave that one in your hands. I'll trust you with that one. I'll need it. Alexander Monroe. Alexander Monroe. Where do I know Alexander from? Where do I know you from? I definitely don't know you from jewelry. Where do I know you from? Yes, Alexander Monroe is an actual person, and I know them from somewhere. Maybe it was jewelry and all of that. I don't know. The name strikes me. It don't matter. We all know that any names or people implemented, blah, 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 isn't meant to interpret a particular person or anything like that. Firing reckless, using his personal perks to make the killer hurt at the cost of his own safety. True. Acrimony? Hmm. Your hatred for your circumstance boils over at the sight of your new enemies. At the start of a chase, all action speeds are increased by 8% for 15 seconds. Only 8%. Interesting. During that time, if you stun the killer. Oh, it's Survivor. Duh. Never mind. During that time, if you stun the killer with a pallet, they will be slowed by 5% for the next 5 seconds after recovering from the stun. Hmm. Hmm. All action speeds being increased for 8% isn't too terribly bad until you get to vaulting speeds and things like that. Vaulting speeds is what specifically kills that 8%. But sure, let's roll with it and say 15 seconds because that's not much. Movement speed's going to be movement speed regardless because it's not an action speed. If you stun the killer with the pallet, they'll be slowed by 5%, which we know is 0.23. Bringing their total down to, well, yeah, 4.23 for the next 5 seconds. So they will still be faster than said Survivor. They just won't be able to catch the Survivor like super freaking quickly. Yeah, but I mean, Spine Chill was one of the things that I was going to throw out there. Spine Chill is active, whenever the killer is looking at you. But on the same notion, the action speeds and all that being increased by 8% for 15 seconds is just a reworked Spine Chill to be part of the perk. Because in actuality, you could just run Spine Chill and then you can run Smash Hit and you can get the same effect as from here. You'll get the sprint burst and then you'll have all the action speed increase from Spine Chill. Only can be active once every 40 seconds. Hmm. I'd say leave it how it is. Because, I mean, you're not necessarily getting much value in getting away from the killer, except for the fact of if you get the pallet stun. This perk is specifically about the pallet stun. The quicker volts is kind of is what it is, but I mean, a killer that knows what they're doing can easily still fake you and do whatever because your base movement speed is still 4.6, which is what makes Spine Chill alright for what it is. I have to throw out that it's like Spine Chill, but I think it's fine because it doesn't last indefinite. It's only 15 seconds. The meat of it is the pallet stun. In the first 15 seconds of the chase, you have to get a pallet stun, or this perk is essentially, or you're not getting full value out of this perk. So I would say that it's fine for the most part, and I will give it to public test beta and let them have their way with it because it might need buffing, it might need nerfing, who knows. Public test beta will have to be the determining factor on that. So acrimony, I'm gonna leave it in the hands of the Dead by Daylight gods to fix and balance that. Unyielding, you'll stop at nothing to make your tormentors hurt. Click the active ability button during a fast vault. Will stun the killer for 2 seconds as long as they're on the other side of the vault point and within 2 meters of it. So it's essentially a head-on or head-on rush, but the killer has to be on the other side of the window. That is very hard to do because if you jump through a window and a killer comes back to it, they are going to slap the absolute crap out of you because you haven't reached that threshold that you need to be from the window. So you'll take that hit. If you jump in and the killer catches you in animation, which is just comes to latency, they can pick you up and throw you on their shoulder. Situational, but allows you to kick killers in the face, so you know. Yeah, I see it, but it's very just. Mm. Latency is going to screw over a lot of people, just like latency screws over Dead Hard. You're going to be vaulting through the window, you're going to click the button, but latency is going to say the killer has precedence, and by ability and game-wide mechanics, if two people press the button at the same time, killer's obviously going to get precedence to pick that survivor up and throw them on their shoulder. So how do we deal with latency in this particular instance? Because the way I see this being used is you're either going to be doing the window fake, and if a killer's just standing at the window waiting to see what you're going to do next, you can hop back in and kick them in the face to keep them from window camping and zoning you. But on the same aspect of the perk, if you fast vault the window, yeah, if you fast vault the window, you turn around, like run a little bit, then turn back to get another fast vault. and the killer's there, they're probably gonna slap you. Where they refund survivors if it doesn't happen in time. That's the thing about Dead Hard. Dead Hard doesn't happen during a pre-programmed animation, so I don't know how they're gonna refund a grab if the killer's going for a grab and then refund it. I could see the game locking up and you kicking and stunning the survivor being frozen in air. It can also let you kick them if they're about to kick the pallet. um, I suppose it has to be a running vault though, so they're gonna see you running back towards them. If they were smart, they would just fake that. I mean, I have went to some situations where I should have gotten a grab, but even when you don't get the grab, you generally get the slap after the grab. When it doesn't particularly grab, you still get the hit, or at least the animation of you swinging. So, I mean, how are they going to refund all of that when that particular thing happens? That's what I'm going over and trying to figure out. Because it only happens during a fast vault. So you have to be actively running towards killer. If they don't get the grab and they get the swing, how is the game going to determine all of that? Because then what you're going to have is a standoff after every single pallet drops. Well, I mean, though it's oddly common for grabs to just get eaten. I've never had a grab get eaten and not have the ability to swing back afterwards. Even the occasional one where I sneak up on them on Ghostface and they like tap their shoulder and then they go back to the regular animation. Generally, it's quick enough for you to just keep clicking the button and send it through. I mean, if you're a casual or below, and it happens to you, obviously you're going to get kicked every time. But I'm thinking more along the line of the avid Dead by Daylight players that have that reaction speed. It's like head on, it's situational, and you don't even have to worry about it until you're hit by it. Well, they're going to assume that you're trying CJ Tech or something like that. Which, again, speaking of CJ Tech, how is that going to work when the killer's during a pickup animation on the other side of a pallet and you go for a kick? As we all know, the killer is essentially immortal until until they're able to move. Then you can stun them and do whatever. So if you use your perk while the killer's in pickup animation, you're probably just going to phase through the killer. So there's another issue that has came up for that particular perk. CJ Tech. Minus the flashlight. So you are asking behavior to go through and rewrite all of their systems and mechanics and all of that to incorporate this particular perk in. That's going to be rough. So I will leave that again for that portion again for the Dead by Daylight gods and the public test beta. Because it's going to need extensive testing because people are going to find exploits and things like that that involve it. Oh, it'd definitely be funny. Till it happened to me and I get stuck. And I'm just like, no, bro, no, not like this. Or I try to use it and I get stuck inside of a killer and he's carrying us both. One through his body, one on his shoulder. Now, wouldn't that be a sight? You karate kicked right through his stomach. Or into his stomach. um, Afterwards, for the next 5 seconds, After the killer recovers from the stun and all of their actions are increased by 15%. That'd be something else. Heck yeah. So it's a 2-second stun. It's very quick. And they have sort of like a rage afterwards where their action speeds are increased by 15%. After using this, you become exhausted. And you have the regular exhaustion things. Yeah. Let's leave that perk with public test beta. They're going to have fun with that one. Somebody's working overtime. That's all I gotta say. And then play with fire. After making a loud noise while not in chase, you're exposed for 40 seconds. Pretty? But you also have all action speeds increased by 12% for the same amount of time. That's not worth being exposed for. Play with fire can only activate once every 80 seconds. The only time you would get any effect from this as a survivor is at exit gates. You'd literally slam something or do anything like that, then run to an exit gate to get that increased time. Why would you ever want to expose yourself for 40 seconds? And there's not even any like or reading or anything like that on top of it. It's not that it's balanced, it's that it's, for the most part, it's just like you would literally be my brain. You would literally be hopping in and out of lockers and then working on a generator. You would be slamming a pallet or hopping in and out of locker and then going to exit gate. During chases and things like that, to be fair, it's a 12 increase the volt speed. During chases and things like that, or if you want to sabotage something, I mean, you could expose yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it. During chase, it doesn't make any type of change. There's no exposure while in chase. There's no action speed increase and all of that within chase. Playing with fire is knowing that you're in a dangerous situation and that the possibility that you can be burnt from it. Playing with fire is pretty much the epitome of Alex as a character, reckless and unsafe, but strong and brave. So I guess my question is, why not activate this perk while in chase? And then obviously decreasing the time that you're spent exposed all the way around. Yeah, it can activate while in chase, but its effect supply in chase. Well, then that's another essential problem because you can start the chase off early by hopping a window, and then for the next 40 seconds of chase, you have the stacking effect. So there's another problem. I would get rid of the while not in chase, and I would drop the exposure down to about 15, 20 seconds. And I would have it work throughout the map all the while. So it's a risky perk like No Mither. So like No Mither, you stay injured, but you keep everything throughout the entire match. With this is kind of like baby No Mither. You would get exposed for certain periods of time, but you have an increase from it during that small amount of time. I could remove that part and make the exposed effect 20 seconds while keeping the total effect 40 seconds. Well, it's the 40 seconds of, but I guess it does have a cooldown on it as well. I guess the cooldown makes it kind of chill. I don't know. You can go either way with it, and it'd be fine, honestly. You can go your way, you can go the opposite of that and just dump the cooldown. Hmm. I don't know. There's a lot of working arounds and things that you can do with that. The 80-second activation time is very nice because you only get 40 seconds worth of time, and then you have a 40 seconds worth of cooldown or wait time that you do have to deal with, real life problems. So, yeah, I could agree. 3 perks being we'll see in PTB. But I mean, they're gonna have to go to PTB anyway. But play with fire can be balanced more so. I would just remove the, well, not in chase part. I mean, fire's fire. Fire doesn't care whether or not you're in chase or not. Fire's gonna burn you whenever it gets the chance to. Maybe pop down the exposed for a little bit, like you said, like 15, 20 seconds, and then give you the benefits of being able to vault fast and things like that. So, yeah, at least play with fire. I mean, it can be balanced for the most part until behavior goes and does its thing. Behavior might completely jack up your perk and make it go hard left or hard right, regardless. What was supposed to take half an hour ended up taking what, like another hour? Whoops. But this does mean that I don't have to stream later if I'm not feeling up to it. Actually, I finished editing my Rocket League replay. I might put that in the time slot for either later on today or for tomorrow if there's no content Dead by Daylight wise. And I might just take a day off. Yeah, it'd be a very big behavior moment. I don't know. For the moment, as Rhapsody says, I'm gonna head off for now. It's been almost 3 hours and 40 minutes of stream time. We went over a lot of content. Things are coming to a close. Finished Splinter Cell, finished the replay, finished the rest of the form for now. You might just go on a vacation. If I don't come back, don't look for me. No. If I don't come back, just send me a message on Discord or something like that. I don't know. Get a hold of me somehow. Comment on a video, whatever. I generally see the notifications that pop up. Even on videos that I've commented on like 2 months ago, I'm still getting notifications from those. So I stay recent for the most part. But if this is the end of the line, I appreciate you, Pretty. Super appreciate you, Galanonim, Macho, and anybody else that has stopped by on stream and has been chill, and anybody that's let me review their products. All of that is found in the creation review. The link is in the description. Actually, I have to fix that link now that I think about it. At the end of everything, the link will be in the description. Because I just copied it over. I didn't actually adjust everything. No. Okay, it's already set up. Cool. Link is in the description. Everything's working fine. Obviously, the killer subtext and all of that, I'll have to go in and add later. I'll probably just use this particular concept since it was the most serious one out of everything that I've done today. Give you credit for the final one, Critty. Get this powered by Restream out of my face, though. How dare you, Restream? All you're doing is... Actually, Restream ain't doing crap right now. OBS is doing everything. So why is Restream even trying to take credit for that? It's actually kind of a slap in the face. I might as well fix everything, give you credit where credit is due. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can go ahead and ask me now. While I'm doing this, I will reply back in as quick as I can. I'm an old man, god dang it. Cool. And with that, there you go. Submitted creation forum, the invader submitted by Critical Fish. Link to that. Please go and have a look, provide feedback. Everything else is properly in place. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Tell you what, Critty, if I do continue this on and you keep stopping by like you do, I might have to add you to the official description as well. Because you even stopped by the Twitch streams as well. Crazy. I'm not even doing Twitch. Actually, you know what? Fuck it, dude. At least add you into this one. There. I just completely blew out my chat wherever it went. Getting feedback on my stuff is nice for one, and two, you're pretty entertaining. Most people say that I talk slow, like an old man, and I don't know what I'm talking about. That's generally the feedback that I get from people. And I say, you know why I talk slow and do everything that I do? It's very simple, because I give lectures outside of doing this. And when you give lectures and you teach things to people that don't know a particular subject, you have to repeat yourself. And you have to talk slow. And you have to make it to where everybody understands what's going on. And when I'm not giving lectures and teaching people other things, I am a reviewer by trade. I review other products and things like that. From websites to products that are coming out to new games that are coming out sometimes. The things like that. Obviously, I'm not allowed to speak about any of the products or anything that I've reviewed, except for one. One that I was allowed to talk about is Buff. Buff is basically pays you in rewards for playing specific games. They get credit for pointing you in the right direction, and they make their money off of the ads, etc., etc. But they make money in everything else. Very interesting. I used to run Buff after the sponsorship and all of that. Well, it's not sponsorship, after reviews ended. But I mean, when you're effectively getting paid for testing something out versus only getting the rewards for playing, your motivation goes down. Cool. Update it. There you go, Critty. You are now an honorary member of the Q crew. But yeah, that's what I do by nature. That's why I can dive into more details things while staying impartial for the most part. Alright. I am out of here. If anybody needs me and wants to talk to me, feel free to stop by the Discord, leave a comment, anything like that. Leave a message on Twitch. Any type of comments that are left through Twitch when I'm offline or online gets sent straight to Discord. Discord gets sent straight to my phone. So, quick way to get me or get a hold of me. Any messages posted in Discord gets sent to YouTube and gets sent to Twitch. And anything posted on YouTube goes straight to Discord. So Twitch goes to Discord, YouTube goes to Discord. Anything posted on YouTube goes back out to Twitch and YouTube. So if you want to see the dual chat, Discord's the way to go. I guess since I'm talking about it, I might as well give a said link to Discord. Bum bum bum. And there is link to Discord. Hop on into Discord. Tell Macho Q said he sucks at Rocket League. Get good, noob. Stop and say hi. That we don't currently have a large amount of members, so it's not crowded or anything like that. Only thing I recommend is if you do join the Discord, make sure that you mute the stream chat channel. So anything that's posted in chat while I'm streaming doesn't immediately get blasted out to you. But besides that, I am now officially done for the day, and I have a full day worth of things that I can do now. Feels nice for once instead of working all the time. So, thanks for stopping by, Critty. Galanonim, if you're out there, keep pushing, buddy. You're doing good. Just don't push too hard, because I know you're going to make yourself sick if you keep going at the rate you're going. I'll see you guys, hopefully next time. Peace. Yeah, and I hope your break is a good one. Oh, it's definitely going to be good. I'm about to cook me some wings right out of the air fryer. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to relax. Have some good times. As always, supplement